All right, welcome everyone to the Serious Angler Podcast. If you are new to our show here, our main course for you is going to be talking and hopefully teaching you more about bass fishing. But that, of course, does not come without a distraction or 10. And this show is no different. We go on that, except the only difference in this show is this is part two of our cameraman mega show. That I actually have a special co-host for this one. If you've not seen part two or part one, excuse me, go back, watch part one. There's some great guys from behind the camera in the outdoor space in there, and we extend that to this one. And honestly, there's a bunch of people that are some studs that we left off here that deserve to be on, that we need to go have round twos, round threes, round fours as we go forward throughout the years here in Serious Angling to give them the credit that they deserve. But nonetheless, it's a great show today. Usually we're joined by the Bassin captain, Mr. Andy Full, but we actually have Clint Bartlett join in as a co-host for this show. And we got some great people to look forward to on this one. We got the Lyons brothers. We got Jake Latondras and Austin Sherwood. Some absolute studs in the creative space of the outdoor industry. So we got that to look forward to. So without further ado, let's get into today's show. All right, folks. So our next guest here lined up for the show. Unfortunately, as we've told you guys before, Clint and I have taken multiple days to put these shows together. So unfortunately, our only guest that Clint cannot attend is Mr. Jake Latondras, a legend, I would say, in the fishing space and the hunting space. And man, I appreciate you taking time out, Jake. It's unfortunate Clint can't join us, but looking forward to diving in with you, man. And it's good to get you on here.
Well, thanks for having me. Sorry Clint couldn't join, and that's probably my fault because of my limited schedule with my kids and all and business. But yeah, thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here. Can't wait for this conversation.
Heck yeah, dude. Well, I'll say this: everybody's got, I mean, especially Clint, yourself. I mean, busy schedules. When you try to compare them or put them together, things just don't work out. As I'm preaching to the choir, I'm sure. So we'll be good, man. We'll make up for it, and we'll have a round two, I'm sure, later throughout the year. But man, you are no stranger to podcasts, as you guys do an amazing job over on the Mercer podcast. I love the point of view that you bring to from each event, and I think that's just one aspect of it. I think you bring this industry from storytelling, because you do a lot from behind the camera versus being on a podcast as well. So I'm excited to break into this a little bit with you, and I guess to dive into that, for the folks that maybe live under a rock that don't know who you are, especially in the bass fishing space, kind of explain a little bit what your role is in the industry, and then give a why to your passion behind what you're doing.
I mean, the why is easy. That's probably where I should start too, because way back when, probably when I was younger than you, or when I was just really trying to figure my life out, I remember telling myself, because I love to hunt and fish so much, I really need to figure out a way to make a living in the hunting and fishing space so that when I get married and have kids, that I'm actually going to work and it's not a fun thing for me to do, so that
Yeah.
I don't have to make up excuses as to why I'm out in the field all the time. And that is truly why, I set out to create a career in the hunting and fishing industry, and I really didn't realize it was going to be with a camera. It happened to work out that way with some photography I was doing in a completely different extreme outdoor sport of ice climbing, and it just evolved back into what I truly love. And as far as what I do now, my main role in the outdoor industry as a primary field producer for Bassmaster Television. And I cover all the elite events, including the Classic, and then cover some other events that they do, like some of the Opens. We're actually covering all the Opens now, Championship Saturdays, and then we cover steel timber sports and the air races in Reno, and a couple of other things that we've been dealing with. But yeah, I'm really just a field producer, which means it's a big long word for describing someone that carries a camera around all day and shoots content and tells stories, creates interview situations with talent. And our job is to pull the storyline out of our talent and make something interesting so the viewers have something fun to watch.
That's cool, dude. And so the main consensus, I think you nailed it with that, is pulling the story. And so it's of everybody we've had on so far, they've had different ways of telling it, but a lot of the point is you're a storyteller first and somebody behind the camera second. Like whether your talent is with video or photo or both, the storytelling is the most important part. And that's something I think it's really cool. It's coming out of this. That's come from everybody. That's the most important piece of being good with this and kind of engaging that creative aspect of your brain, which I think is pretty cool. But is there any other aspect you would say beyond that that's important?
No, I mean that's really, my mentor is really a group of people. Mike McInnes, Hop McInnes, and Shannon Nardi, who is a McInnes as well. They are the McInnes family. They are the children and the offspring of Jerry McInnes, who was for a long he helped Forrest Wood create the FLW. They created, fishing television way back when. He had the longest running television show on any network ever in the history of television called The Fishing Hole. And
Mhm.
they were my mentors. They were the ones that put me into this space because I had some artistic ability with a camera, which I really started shooting photos for the North Face and Patagonia apparel companies years ago back in the late 90s. And then I evolved that into, I really wanted to film deer hunts, and I started working for Jay Gregory. And we were filming deer hunts way back when in the early days of outdoor television, really even before television, VHS and DVD productions. And I remember one time Jerry, and Shannon told me that the essence of everything that they do, the most important thing, it all starts with a great camera shot, but everything that you do is revolves around telling a story, and everyone has a story, and everyone's got an interesting story, because most people, if you get into someone's personal life, and you can tell bring that story out of someone, everyone can relate to it, because at the end of the day we all put our pants on the same way. But I'll tell you a secret that Shannon had always taught me in my early days of camera production was, when you're interviewing someone, if you can make someone cry from a personal standpoint, not by bringing out something bad that happened to them in their lives, but if you can bring out the emotional core of that person and the center of that person and make them cry because it means so much to them, then you've actually done your job. So when I'm interviewing people, not necessarily on podcasts, but when I'm interviewing people for feature stories, I always do my homework, do my due diligence, figure out where they've been, who they've been around, and start bringing those that old, core center of that person out, and I can usually make someone cry. So when they do, I know I'm doing my job.
Yeah. I mean, shoot, this past year you're pretty close when Taku caught that giant spot. I mean, I feel like he was
He
pretty
made me
close to crying.
cry.
Yeah.
He did his job because that was insane. But
Yeah.
there's so many moments like that, and I look back sometimes when Bass Nation play replays those clips, going back in time, or if you watch the cast, that is an unbelievably informative and entertaining show. I highly recommend that to anyone who loves bass fishing, to go watch the cast, because it's actually the history of Ray Scott, his dream, his brand, how they did everything, and some of those interviews that we've done with Bill Dance and Helen Sevier and just all the people involved in the early days is really insane, because you look at today, like you go to iCast and you look at what this has evolved into, and it's all from that dream that Ray Scott had from day one, and the people that he hired to put in place, and that became a story. They set out to tell these stories, and now that became the greatest story that this industry has, because that's where it all started. So,
Yeah.
it's a fun place to work. All the people, the anglers. I mean, there's a revolving door of anglers coming and going. There's 10 that leave every year and 10 new ones that come in, and all the old guys, some retire. One of the greatest, really greatest things about my career with Bassmaster specifically has been able to hang out with people like Rick Clunn and Kevin Van Dam, that have so many stories. I mean, it would take you hours and hours and hours to pull all that stuff out of them.
Yeah. And dude, it's actually pretty incredible though when you look at it. I think to your point, it takes a talent to be able to capture what you guys are capturing, but also too to be able to pull out of the people the story, the feeling, exactly what you're just hitting on. Because there's so been so many stories over the past years where your name pops up, like it's Lee Livesey. I was in the boat with Jake, and this crazy stuff happened, and you guys have great way of pulling that stuff out, and the clips with Taku and so on and so forth. So there's a talent to that. I think it's one of the reasons why we want to highlight you in this piece as well. It's just the talent of one being behind the camera, but talent two of just being a good human, being able to bring that stuff out. So that's incredible, man. And I guess with that, it leads me to one of the things I wanted to ask you is, obviously there's a lot that can be loved and appreciated there, but what is your number one thing you love the most about the industry you're in?
This is gonna be cookie cutter answer, but from the bottom of my heart, and all things considered, the greatest thing about this are my friends. I mean, I've been doing this. This coming season will be 14 years that I've been working as a field producer for Bassmaster Television, and I've had lots of friends come and go. There are still a handful of guys that I'm really good friends with now that I still converse with even during the off season. We text and chat about hunting or family or whatever it is, and it's that I think about sometimes. How long can I do this, and how long will it last? And when I start to think about leaving this behind at some point, I mean, I'm not going to now, but at some point I'll have to. And the thing that I'm going to miss the most are the relationships that I've built with the anglers. And it's not because they're popular or famous or any of that stuff. It's because they love so much what they do that they've dedicated their lives and totally committed to it full 100%. And they've gotten to be world class at what they do. They're all so good at it. Even even the ones that don't make it after 3 years, they're all so good at it, and they amaze me every single time I go out as a new day. Even if I have the same guy 4 days in a row, not one day is back to back alike. Or I mean, it might be similar, but it's every day's different. And so
Mm-hmm.
being able to be in the boat and share those experience, like you said, with Lee Livesey catching an 8-3, or I mean, I was with Polinick. I think it was his second or third year in the Elite Series when he caught like 10 bass in 12 casts on Toledo Bend, and I'll never forget that. And the Takus, you know, Disneyland, when we coined
Yeah.
Disneyland, we were
Yeah.
literally just talking about having fun. And he and Disney, my mother's Japanese, so I can relate to Taku and
Yeah.
Kyoya and lots of Japanese guys that have come through the Elite Series. But that day we were talking about, I just know Disneyland is a big thing in Japan. It always has been. So I just brought it up. I said, "This is like Disneyland." He goes, "Oh yeah, come to Taku Boat, smallmouth Disneyland." And just out of that one little connection there, it's almost this brand,
Yeah.
this co-brand that exploded out of Taku. And
Mm-hmm.
before you know it, Taku becomes, who he is today, not just because of that, but his personality linked to all that turned into something. So, those
Yeah.
are those are really the highlights of my bass career, is being able to share those moments with those guys. It's truly incredible. There's no one else in the boat but me and him.
Yeah.
Hence, why Mercer called it Jake's take, because it's a different perspective than most
Mhm.
anyone else can provide.
Yeah, and the stuff we do see in that production doesn't put an ounce to what actually happens in that boat, especially like from that standpoint, man. When you're on Lake Ontario, it's just the open ocean. It's nobody else but you guys. It speaks volumes, man. It's we see as fans, we see snippets, clips, maybe a couple hours of live coverage where it's when you spend 8 hours in a boat, 8 hours plus in a boat with somebody, you build a relationship, whether that's good or bad. Typically it's good, we'll say, because anglers usually goes well, but it's especially cameraman to angler. It's a lot that can get done in 8 hours. That's for sure.
When
From
Welcher, one of the biggest moments I think I've ever had in 13 seasons was with Welcher 2 years ago when he won AOY and really sealed the deal on Lake Ontario. And we ran out to that spot. He was fishing like 60 or 70, maybe even 80 miles away. And
yeah,
it was windy and the wind was blowing right down the pipe and we had to cross this gap. And I took a photo and took some video with my camera, but it just didn't do it justice. And I've been on a lot of water and a lot of boats my entire life. I grew up on Kentucky Lake. My dad used to run our John boat behind barges just to teach me how to drive in big water. And I've seen a lot of, a variety of different conditions from big to small. And I swear on my life, that day we were running in 8 foot waves. And when I reported that on social media, no one believed me. There were hecklers from Florida telling me
oh
that
yeah,
bass boats couldn't do that. It was totally impossible, that I was lying, that, blah, blah, blah. And I heard it all. And at the end of the day, Kyle and I know what we saw, and we were in 8 foot swells, and it was unfreaking believable. I did it one other time with Daryl Christensen on Lake Erie in the PWT. I used to fish the professional walleye trails as a co-angler, and I was with him one time, and he was actually, you could see the walleyes chasing the Cisco's in the waves beside the boat. So he pulled his planer boards and was running long dead sticks off the side, and you could see the fish come up and grab the crankbait off the rod. The water was so high beside the boat and so clear, you could see the bites occurring, and he ended up winning that tournament. It turned into a 2-day tournament because they canceled the last day,
yeah.
but that was the only other time I've seen water like that, and it was just insane.
I think any Great Lakes guy will look at that photo because I know exactly what one you're talking about and see that like I can see from social media is going to social media, but like
Yeah, yeah.
you're correct though. Like when it comes to big water, you'll look at it, you'll be in the moment, you're like, that's huge. You take a photo, you're like, wait, it doesn't look that bad at all. But then like from that standpoint though, like when it actually looks bad in a photo, it's twice, three times as worse. So
Exactly.
any Great Lakes guy saw that, we're like, oh crap, like he's in some waves.
Legit.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. There was a lot of props for that send, especially with what was on the line. It was that thing was pretty damn cool what you guys captured there. And that's actually a perfect segue, like talking about, especially from your gig, is you're at the becking order of what the anglers decide where they're going to go. You have no say in that part. You're just there to capture the ride, and so it's with that too. With especially for 14 years now, what's been the biggest challenge for you, and especially from a standpoint of anybody that's looking to get into say this career path? What's been the biggest challenge for you to give somebody an outlook?
I think the biggest challenge is being the right kind of person in the boat, because you have to adjust. You have to be you, okay, but you have to adjust because everybody's got a different personality. um, Brandon Polnick has a different personality than Lee Livesey. Lee Livesey's different than Kyle Welcher. Kyle Welcher's different from everyone else on tour. And so, and even the same person, let's say Lee Livesey, um, two different days. One day he's catching them, the next day he's not. There's pressure involved when they're not catching them, right? We all know that, and you have to know how to react and how to respond to that. Rick Clunn is a great example. He will talk to you all day, every day, all day long at the bank. When you go out on the lake, even after 50 years of fishing and over 1,000 tournaments that he's been a part of, he's the most serious angler I've ever been around. Like, even he and I are very good friends. I can't say anything. If he's told me to shut up before on the boat and like be quiet and like what's that noise? He's so focused and so tuned in to the micro details of what he's doing. He doesn't like to be distracted at all. When studio in my earbud is telling me to ask Rick a question and he's zoned in on something, I'm like, that's not gonna happen,
No.
bro.
Yeah. Yeah. Not having
I hate to be you, but I hate to be me right now if I ask Rick Clunn a question because I know better. I know what you have to know what your boundaries are and you know how to adjust. I don't think you can just do that walking right into it as a rookie camera guy or a 2 or 3 year camera guy. It takes a while to build that threshold of knowledge and understanding what your boundaries are. So I think I would say that's probably the biggest challenge if you want to be a camera guy for Bass or MLF or any of these circuits that stream live. Um, you just have to know what your role is, and you have to be able to adjust that to the different anglers that you're with.
Yeah. So essentially trying to be reading perception of, or even really, I guess, a communicator. I guess, especially if you're new, right? If you're getting in the boat with somebody, if do you want me to, do you want silence for the next 8 hours plus, or do you want conversation? What do you, is that part of what you would do as well? Like, do you think it's important to communicate that at the start of the day, or do you
Oh,
think that's just something
absolutely.
that's learned?
Yeah, I've come to, know everyone on tour. When I get in their boat, it's very casual, but I ask my my first question is, where do you want me to put my stuff? So that it's not because I don't know where to put it, because I can put it wherever I want, really. But my gesture to them is, I'm here for you, and whatever you feel comfortable with, I'll put my stuff there and then I'll work around that so that I don't mess you up, because the worst thing you want to do is let's say someone's got a freaking 6.5 pounder on, right? And it's day 4, it's championship Sunday. They're in second place. They have no idea what the first place guy's doing or anyone else. They hook a 6.5 pounder and they're fighting this thing because it's on a spinning rod. They're drop shotting and they got to be really delicate. So I'm like filming, I'm trying to get the best angle that I can, right? But if I get in the way, and I've had this happen, I've had the line get hung up in my microphone or on my camera somewhere, and I'm like, oh shit,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
got to know how to get out of this jam, but more importantly, you got to know to not get yourself in that jam in the first place. Because if that fish comes unbuttoned and it's your fault and you're trying to do your job, which you're allowed to do, nothing's going to happen to you. You're not going to get fired. You're not going to get fined. You're not going to get whooped at the bank. None of that. But you have to live with that the rest of your life, that you cost that angler $100,000. So, and every fish counts, even 2 pounders count, right? And I
Yeah.
have another uh, example of two ends of the spectrum that I've lived through with a really popular angler, Jason Christie. So I was with Jason in 2018 on Lake Hartwell when he had almost a 6 pound lead going
Yeah.
into the last day. Like all he had to do was go catch 5 fish. And we all know he's not going to go catch 30 pounds on Lake Hartwell. All he had to do was go catch 5 fish. He was going to win that tournament. So at 2 o'clock or 2:30, he's still got 4 fish, and he's starting. No, it's like 1 o'clock, and he's only got 4 fish, and he's starting to panic. Like I'm going, oh my God, this is not good. And this is really before he and I were good friends. I was just a camera guy, so I had it zipped. I was just totally quiet.
Yeah.
Knew he was freaking out, spinning out, and we roll into dock with 4 fish, and he's just like, he wants to throw up, and so do I at this point. And so
Yeah.
then at that time, we had a 45-minute ride back to the arena, and we were told at that time we're going to do something different with our coverage. We're going to stay live in the truck with all 10 anglers back to the arena. And I'm just going, oh my God, if I had a gun right now, I'd shoot myself
Yeah. Oh my
because I
gosh.
do
Yeah.
not want to do this. And so before we start rolling, um, Jason knew he blew it. He choked. And so I told Jason, I said, I've got to do this. I'm really sorry, but I have to roll the camera. We're going to be live the entire time, and they're going to have a big split screen in the arena. They're showing everyone riding back. They want this emotional feedback and all that stuff. So I'm just doing my job, Jason. I'm really sorry. He goes, no, that's all right. Whatever, man. And it was bad. It was hard. It was really, really hard.
Yeah.
One of the hardest things I've ever done. And then in contrast to that, he comes back 2 years ago, and I'm in his boat on purpose. The directors knew that this was meant to be. So they assigned me to Jason on Lake Hartwell in the Classic. Here we go. And, we're having a great time because he's catching fish. He's got a morning spot in that creek ditch where he's
Yep.
catching big ones, and he's going out upgrading when the sun comes up in the docks. It's a great pattern. He does it all 3 days. On day three, he starts to choke again. Like, he doesn't choke. The fish aren't there. There's a
Yeah.
windstorm or something had blown into that creek, the mouth of that creek. He couldn't make his cast right because there was debris all over the water. It was just a debacle. But he did
Yeah.
catch a 5 pounder. That was his first fish. So here's my point. He sits down. He's like, "Here we go again, Jake. I'm really sorry." Like, he was starting to prevent himself from spinning out by succumbing to the bad luck syndrome. And I remember looking up to him and I said, "Look, man, you've only walked out of here or drove out of here with like 2 or 3 fish, maybe 4 every day, but only 1 or 2 of them have been big keepers anyway. You've upgraded everything else. So really, you're not leaving here with anything less than you have on day 1 and day 2. So go catch your fish. Just go do your thing." He's like, "You know what? You're right." Literally, you could see the man in him come back, and he goes and starts flipping docks. He figures out a really precise pattern under
Yeah.
these dock walkways that are entering the water, and he's catching them in these caves. And it's like it's back on again. So again, I told a long story to make a really short point, which is you just have to know when to keep your mouth shut, and because things change and things can change on a dime from hero to zero or zero to hero really, really
Yeah.
quickly.
That was one of the coolest stories, especially the way you guys told it through on Mercer's podcast when that happened and everything. That was one of the coolest part. I remember that being a joking aspect too of from Bassmaster with the production. That was freaking cool, and especially as a fan too, like because you knew production knew that morning on the classic he won. They're like, oh no, day 3 morning, like it's happening again. They're like, can you imagine this guy coming back? Like, I do not want to be around Jason if this happens again. Like, yeah, stay clear of him. And it's just, yeah, that was a really cool story, man. That's yeah,
I
that's
didn't want to
freaking
be the
sick.
bad luck charm either. I'm
Yeah,
like, at this point, if he chokes again, he's going to start looking at me like, "Do not assign Jake to my boat again."
yeah. Yeah, I wasn't that a running joke as part of day one on live or something like that? There, at least with production crew, the
I don't know, mate. What did you
like Zona
hear?
and them on live. I think they're making the joke of you being in the boat with Jason for
Probably,
after the previous classic.
I could see Zona doing that.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a
I
story.
believe it
It's a
was anyway.
story,
Yeah,
right? I mean,
yeah,
everyone has to tell a story, and that's what's so compelling about television. And live television is so much more difficult than pre-recorded post-edit productions, because what you say is what you get, and that's your delivery. You can't take it back when it's live. So you not only have to be careful with what you say, you have to and if I'm asking questions, we got to go right, we got to go down the right road the first time because there are no retakes when it's live.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that is one thing I think Bass and your team does really well is leaning in on the stories, especially per event. And telling multiple stories, I think, per event too, because there's some events you have 4 or 5 different things that are going on, or especially some events where you look at your top 10 going the last day, and it's 5 out of the top 10 have a great story that if they were to win, like there's just a great story to be told, and it's you guys do a really good job, I think, of bringing those out, especially from day 1 to day 4. Obviously, with certain things being highlighted throughout the tournament. So going back again to that lesson of being able to tell a story being so important in this line of business, it's a really cool part, man. I think to wrap this up here before we let you go is, and I'm sure over the years you've learned many things, but what would be one piece of advice you have to somebody that's looking to get into this career path?
Be careful what you ask for. It's this can be a dead end road. I mean, being a camera guy for a big company is one thing, but you can't do it forever. So you have to look ahead into your future and start setting yourself up for bigger and better things. And it may not be field production, which is what you love to do because you love to be outside, but you can't do this forever. You do age out. And technology ages you out sometimes. And I mean, I'm not up to par with AI right now, and I know a bunch of young guys that are, and I see myself getting behind. So, be careful what you ask for, plan ahead, and look into the future as far as you can and start planning on that as soon as you can and as soon as you get established so that you don't fall into a rabbit hole or pigeonhole and you get stuck just being a camera guy because just being a camera guy is a dead end street. You need to do bigger and better things than that.
So I guess to go hand in hand with that, just make sure you're always networking, trying to expand on keeping up with what's new, things like that. Trying to be, would you say, multifaceted? Then if you only understand video, try to learn other either aspects of video, editing, photo, whatever have you. Would that be a good
Yeah.
set? I guess at part 2 to that.
My analogy is to always be a Swiss Army knife. Be a knife, a pair of scissors, a magnifying glass, a corkscrew, a leather punch, everything that folds up into one U. The more things you can offer a company, the more hireable and desirable you're going to be. And like you said, Bailey, network and in the fishing world opposed to the hunting world, they're two completely different worlds. And the fishing world, I will say, with all sincerity and respect to the hunting world, the fishing world has more opportunities to do bigger and better things. There's more money mainstreaming through the fishing industry. I don't know that it's because it's not older, but it's probably further along than the hunting industry is, and there's more people. It's a bigger space. So do both if you want to do both, but focus on the fishing industry because there's a lot of opportunity there, especially with social media and AI growing right now. But nothing's ever going to outgrow telling stories.
Yeah, yeah, that'll be remaining the ever constant.
It
Is this
it
is the
will it
storytelling?
will always be there.
Yeah.
Can I give a
Well, Jay,
shout out before we leave?
yeah, please do. Yeah.
I do want to give a shout out to the entire JM crew. We have a wonderful group of people, and some of the people that are going to be on this show, like Kyle and Sherwood. These are all friends of mine, and we've met through Bassmaster Elite Series. They're all really great people. It's a one big giant travel family, and I love all these guys. I would also like to thank Wes Miller, who is our head field producer at Bassmaster. He's been doing it for 30 plus years, and he's taught us a lot of things that we didn't know, especially new guys coming through. And I think that's it. I just wanted to
Yeah.
thank those people for allowing me and all the camera guys to have this opportunity and to get to do what we do because we love what we do.
Heck yeah, man. Yeah, that goes a long way, and you guys have a lot of eyes on you, not only just from the fan perspective, but I can guarantee you there's people, going through high school, college, whichever, that see what you guys are doing, especially stuff behind the scenes, or maybe they're at classic takeoff or an event takeoff, and they see you going down to the boat dock, hopping in a boat, and they look at their dad or mom or whoever, and they're like, I want to do that. That's what I
Mhm.
want to do. So it's just that's kind of the premise of why we're building this show. And so I really appreciate you taking the time out to come on here, tell some stories, and teach a lesson or two to the people that are listening. So, Jake, I appreciate it, man. We'll have all your socials and stuff where people can follow along down below for them to take advantage of that if they're not already. And then, is there anything people can look out for you, man, in 2025?
I'm just looking forward to the new season. We're starting to cover the opens in January, and we're going to cover all the opens. And I can't wait for the Elite Series and the Classic, and just ready to get back out on the water. Sometimes I don't really like the off season that much,
Yeah, there's too much
S-
downtime.
especially in
That time
Colorado.
away.
It's cold. I'm ready to get back to the south.
I hear you, man. Like I was telling you offline, we're headed Florida bound here this weekend, and I am ready to not see 4 feet of snow in Buffalo anymore. So I'm in the same track mind, dude. I'm ready for some sunshine, some warmth, man. I guess this just popped up in my head here as we're chatting is for next year. We always ask anglers what the event they're looking forward to on the schedule, but I guess from your perspective, if any, do you have an event you're looking forward to more than any others?
I mean, the classic. There's nothing like the classic. And, I know we rotate through some of the same lakes, every 3 or 4 or 5 years, but the classic is just the Super Bowl of bass fishing. There's nothing like it. It's the pinnacle of the pro bass fishing world. And, the whole scene is incredible. All the people down at the dock at takeoffs every day and all the people that fill the arenas. It's a really exciting time, and the fans are the ones that make that exciting. So, and if we go to a new lake, I always look forward to all of them. Really, I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
Lake Fork is a blast. We're not going back to um, St. Lawrence this year, but I always look forward to big water, all the adventures we go on. So I'm just looking forward to the new season.
Heck yeah, man. Well, dude, I appreciate your time, and hopefully people will be following along with you if they're not already, and be talking to you soon, Jake. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. I had a blast.
Heck yeah, man. All right, and we are back with our next guest here. For folks that are tuning in, obviously you've seen either 3 apparel changes if you've been watching and seeing me here, but also Clint's back with 1 apparel change. It's just one straight video. We told people, Austin, that this is taking 3 days to put this show together. And so they're seeing 3 apparel changes from me, 2 apparel changes from Clint, and it's just gonna be we're gonna put this thing together best we can. But dude, it is good to get you on here, and because we have a whole panel of different people to learn from, and we thought, well, really, Clint is the brains behind this, and knew that you were imperative to get on this panel to speak to, learn from, and we can get some cool stuff out of you, man. So appreciate you taking the time to be on the show.
Yeah, I appreciate being here. I'm excited to see what everyone else says, to be honest. Those guys are all super, super talented. So I'm eager to see kind of what everyone else has to pitch in too. But thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course, dude. I think so. To get things started, for people who in the industry, it's their first time hearing from you. Tell people a little bit about what your role is in the space. You know, basically, what is your not just role, but like who you work for, who you shoot for, and then a little bit about the why. Like, why do you have this passion for what you're doing today?
Yeah. So I shoot for Justin Hamner right now, mostly. That's pretty much all that I'm doing at the moment on the bass side of things. So that started off doing some industry work with some of his sponsors, kind of doing some photo shoots here and there, video shoots here and there. And I got to know Justin through that. And so when the classic came around, he was like, "Hey, he had just came off fork and had a really good finish there. He's like, "Hey, I have some money for the first time ever to like do something like video wise." He's like, "You want to come film the classic for me?" And it was the same conversation I think he had with everybody. He was like, "I'm going to win this, so I need you to come film it." And I was like, "All right, dude. Yeah, sounds good." Um, that's kind of how I got started filming last year, kind of full time YouTube series for Hamner. So that kind of kicked off through the classic, really, and that was like the launch pad for that to start. But yeah, it started with him just being like, "Hey, dude, I need you to come film the classic." I got introduced to him through sponsors before that, but that was really the that was really the big one.
Can we just take a moment here to talk about a perfect moment of timing? Timing here was insane. I didn't even know he had a guy shooting for him at the classic until post classic when he mentioned so. Like when he called when he was leaving on his way back home. He's like, "Yeah, dude, it's all on film too." And I'm like, "Say what again?" Like I didn't even know you had a camera guy. And he goes, "Yeah, I hired him right for the event." And I'm like, are you just like, are you Yoda of the fishing space? Like, how did you know that you were going to win? You called it on basically every show that exists going into the classic, saying you're going to win it. Well, that's just, dude. Like, did you guys talk about that after the fact with each other? Like, hey, glad we started this thing before the class before the classic kicked off.
Oh yeah, we talk about a lot. We still talk about a lot because like one, it wasn't something that I had done where I was doing like full length YouTube videos like that. I mean, it wasn't even really on my radar. I was doing a lot of social stuff. I work full time doing marketing for agencies. So like I do a lot of like digital marketing, social media, that type of stuff. Um, my background before that was in video and photo, but I hadn't done like follow one guy, film one guy to shoot something longer than 60-second pieces. So um, it wasn't even on my radar up until the classic, and then now after that all happened and came together, we're like, maybe we should just. I'm like, I always joke, I'm like, I should have just stopped right then and there, just been a one and done. I was like, I would have had the perfect record.
I
But
think
yeah,
he
it's
realized as he
wild.
was on his way to the AOI race, he's like, maybe this guy's good luck. Because we know Hamner can't catch fish on his own. So obviously it's the good luck of the camera guy. So he's like, I'm gonna keep this
I've
guy
tried to
around.
make
I'm doing
that
well.
case. I've tried to make that case. I've tried it a few times, but I don't think it's it's me all the way because every time I'm with him, we don't catch fish. So I think I have to film it. I can't necessarily be in the boat. If I'm in the boat, it's a problem.
Dude,
the curse of the camera guy can be real for sure.
Yeah.
So the guest previous to you, Jake Latondras, had a story exactly about that. But it was the flip side, the story of when he was with Jason Christie when he lost and with Jason Christie when he won. And that was kind of a cool polar opposite. But dude, it looked like you guys had quite a fun trip up here in the north, night fishing for freaking smallmouth.
Dude, that was insane.
That sounds so freaky to me. That freaks me out.
Oh, it was. I was 100% nervous as hell. I've never caught a smallmouth in the dark ever in my life, and I've fished for smallmouth my whole life. But we were supposed to be doing something else. Like we were gonna like film like a little short bit on shore. There was rain coming in, like we weren't gonna go out, and then it like stopped for a second. We were out to dinner, and we were waiting for somebody to come take our order. And like as soon as the rain stopped, Justin was like, "Yo, we're going fishing like right now." And I was like, "Dude, we got to eat." He's like, "No, we got to go fishing right now. The rain's stopping." So we jumped in the boat and went down St. Lawrence and like just started fishing. We started catching them pretty early, but then it got dark and we actually found them and just stayed on it until dark and freighters were coming by. So eerie.
That's the part that
middle
freaks
of the
me
night,
out.
and it's like there's nothing on the water, and you're just watching like this giant ship go by. You feel small, real small.
Yeah, especially when it's dark, dog. Like I night fish all the time, but up there, that's crazy. That's wild. I mean, you'll never forget that though.
Yeah, it was really cool. I mean, and it got to a point where like after the sun had been down for a while, we just started throwing like Ned rigs, like dark, like black Ned rigs, and catching them. I'm like, this is the craziest thing. I never would have thought a smallmouth that's such a sight feeder would eat a black Ned rig in the dark. I would have never thrown one in a million years. It was cool.
So-
I'll never forget it. Yeah, that was awesome.
The inner nerd in me, I should preface this because I gotta stop saying the nerd in me because I'm not a nerd because I'm dumb, because you can't be dumb and be a nerd. So my aspiring nerd in me wants to know if you can remember when it was nighttime and you're throwing the Neds, did the smallmouth, like when you could see them on live, did they all just flush to the bottom or did they not change at all?
Trying to remember. It
That
would be
makes
like
sense.
there
Like
would be
the darkness,
one.
did they?
Yeah, so it'd be like there'd be one, and they're sitting lower. So you'd see one, and you'd throw out, and it was a lot of those shipping channel markers, and so you'd throw out to it, and you'd let it sit, and you just have to kind of dead stick it there, and you're sitting there waiting, and they don't do anything right away, and then slowly they get interested, and the longer you'd sit there and do nothing, like the more I felt like your odds of them biting were. If you started to move it, they'd get excited and then take off, but you wouldn't actually get bit.
That's crazy.
It was
Especially in the
weird. I've
dark.
never seen anything like it in my life.
Yeah, that's freaking nuts. All right, but I'll stop there before I go on because I'll talk about that for another hour and ask you questions left and right because that's freaking sick. But so one thing I want to ask you: so along this road of getting into this career path, what has been the biggest challenge for you? Do you think?
Oh, easily the editing part for sure. Not so much the challenge of editing itself. It's just the time that goes into it. That's something where the first one, like I said, the first one I did for Justin was like the classic. Before that, let's say I did reels for a client. I'd go shoot, take off. I'd come back. I'd get that reel out, within an hour or two. You're doing quick hitter stuff. And there's kind of a platform for like, how you're gonna cut that reel up. You have 60 seconds, 90 seconds. The classic, like me and my now fiance filmed everything. So we had 2 cameras going constantly. And so I got back, I'm like, there's so much footage. Like I have to scrub through so much footage. And I'm such a kind of like a perfectionist. Like I take my time. I want things to be right. I don't like to kind of half-ass anything. So I'll put a lot of time into making something look the way I feel like it needs to, which can be like, it can be a good thing, but also it can really be a bad thing on the editing side because I realize how much time goes into it. For 1 minute, I remember I spent one day like on the classic video where I was doing like an intro part of one of the days, and I had worked on it for like 8 hours that day, and I got done and I had only made like a minute, maybe 90 seconds of progress into this video that I was like, at this rate, it'll take years to get it done.
Yeah.
So you got to speed it up a little bit, but definitely that. I mean, as I've gone to, because I still have a full-time job on top of doing all of this. So that's probably the toughest part of the whole deal, is just trying to piece together a story and do it in a way that I think looks good, but really tells the story. You don't want it to feel rushed. I don't want these videos to feel like they're just kind of vlogs, or, I want them to feel like a piece of film that people enjoy watching. You can get sucked into the story of it, because I think Justin's story is, I think it's very unique and worth sharing and telling. So that's been the hard part, is because you want to get them done timely, but you also want to do it justice.
How many hours do you think you put into that classic film? Because that was a film for sure. But I mean, it was just it was beautifully shot, but the storyline, like it was a tearjerker. I mean, it was like one of those things that just keeps you on that roller coaster with that story, because that's how it unfolded. And I feel like you put it in that light for a lot, and was able to share that story more than just with the people that were close and got to see it firsthand. Like you got to share that story with the world, but like how much time went into telling that story of the Bassmaster Classic?
First of all, Clint, I appreciate you saying that, because like, as you know, like as someone who like shoots, that's what you want. You want people to feel like they actually understood the story and followed along. Because sometimes you think like, oh, like you think you have the story built out, and then people watch it like, I didn't really quite follow that. So I appreciate that. But time wise, there's no way I could tell you. I mean, hundreds and hundreds of hours, because we got to a point where I didn't want it to come out too late in the year. And there's more tournaments we were filming. So I think it came out in June. But
And I
yeah,
remember
we
I
got
saw
to
you
like
at
crunch
Wheeler,
time.
and that's when you had just dropped it at Wheeler. And I was like, I'm
Yeah.
halfway through it. I was like, I had to go back, and then I sat down and watched it like again. I had to like I watched it some and kind of digested it, but then like the second time I watched it, I really got a hold of the story, because you really do have to like, and that's the thing, like camera guys are going to watch it twice, but like for the average viewer, maybe they might just skim through it or only watch half of it and things like that. So like keeping people
Right.
engaged is tough, but also if you would have left all that story out to fit the masses, then it's not the same story at the end of the day.
Right. And so part of what my thought process going into that was I was going to edit the whole film for Justin's wife and kids. And that was kind of how I looked at it. Was I'm going to make something here that his wife will watch and his kids one day will watch, and they'll be like almost like a photo album, like a memory book. Like, oh wow, I want to see that whole experience, like a home video, right? Like I want to see it played out for the family, really, because I felt like if it was gonna connect with them, it'd connect with everybody else too. So I tried to follow that as like that was kind of my North Star, if you will, with editing it. But because of that, it takes a long time because you're trying not to leave out those little nuances that you know they'll appreciate, which might be the only they appreciate it, but I feel like it also adds to it. So once we got into crunch time, I started doing a lot of like 5 a.m. wake ups until way too late, just trying to get it done. You know how it is when you just grind to get to the finish line.
You watch the same sequence over and over again, and you're like, oh, that's not good. That's not right. That's not right. It's like you start to overthink it, right? Like you have to step away from
100%. That's what I told Justin after the last term of the year. And you guys know, like, there's so much like suspense going into that because AOI was on the line, right? And so there was a lot of like, for him, a lot of pressure and a lot of tension and stress. And for me, like watching it all and filming it all, after the last day of that last term, and when he didn't win AOY, it was kind of like at the end of like a long football season, right? Like you went through 2 days, you went through all the games, all the practices, and now the season's done, and you've invested so much. There's kind of that like weight lifted when the season ends. You're like, okay, like we put a bunch into it. And I told him, like, now I have to relive it all again because I have to go back and edit the whole thing.
Yeah, for him, it's done, like off season,
again.
let's chill. And then for you, it's like, all right, I just shot a deer. It's time to get to work. You know,
how's the real work?
100%. Yeah, exactly. So there's a little bit of that. There's no time to kind of be like, okay, like time for some time off, and then you're on to next season. I'm like, time off for a little bit and right back into last year.
Yeah, a lot of time going into that. Well, I can definitely add on to how well you did putting the story, and this is what has been the common denominator between all of our guests thus far is the storytelling is more important than the filmmaking itself. And so I watched that video specifically of the classic. Now, anyways, probably almost 20 times from start to finish. But I watched it one time, and once it was out, I had it. I had something else playing, and it played on loop back to that video. And I went to go sit down for dinner with my wife, and we're watching, and that's on, and I'm like half watching, but also on my phone a little bit, and she's like engaged with it, and she doesn't follow fishing, and so I then get up to go downstairs to go work, and I'm like, "Hey, you can change it to whatever you want." She goes, "No, I want to watch this." And I kid you not, she watched that thing by herself through the end, which is a very hard thing to do to get my wife to watch fishing. So I say you freaking nailed it, bud.
That's awesome.
I appreciate it. That's a long journey to go on, man. That's a long haul. So that's awesome. Thank you. Very cool.
Part of me wishes I had a GoPro that was on that room when she was watching it just to see, because I bet you I came back up and I said, "So did you cry?" Because that scene from him at the press conference afterwards, I'm like, she's one of those, like, those movie moments will get her. And she won't admit to it, but I call BS on that thing. Dude, awesome. So you made
that's awesome.
Yeah, man, it's freaking awesome. You did a great job. To backtrack though a little bit, what you mentioned with being full-time still and all the hours that go into this, there's a lot of people that want to make this a career path, want to get into capturing content, filming content, putting these stories together like you guys are doing. But not everybody obviously can just jump and just hope that they can start making money on it. You know, a lot of people have to have a full-time gig, some line of work to then have it, whether it starts as a hobby and gradually grows into something else. What would you offer as a piece of advice to that person that say they right now they have a 9 to 5 and they got to figure out time outside of all of that to work on improving their game, things like that, trying to pick up maybe some small clients here and there. What piece of advice would you have for that person?
Yeah, I think I go back to I used to work at like this. It was like a chicken shack that my part of my family owned, and the guy that started it back in the '60s, he would always come in and he would always say like, the harder you work, the luckier you get, and he'd like take something and leave, and he'd every time he came in, he'd always say that. And it's kind of like your banner behind you too, right? Like no one cares, work harder. Like that has always been the recipe. Yeah, there it is. That has always been the recipe for success, in my opinion. Is there's no substitute for hard work and putting your nose to the grindstone. And like with like people who want to film, especially like fishing, because they have a love for fishing. Like that was where like I wanted to fish professionally all the way through college, and then realized like, oh man, this is harder than I thought it was to do this, and there's more to it than just fishing. And like started to put those pieces together, but that passion for fishing, people want to carry over and film. And I think that it's completely a tangible goal, like a very realistic goal for people if they're willing to put in the time and the hard work. I think the issue that a lot of people run into is they're like, I need a full-time job to make the money to pay the bills. I totally get that. Me too. I think you have to be willing to work more than 40 hours a week though. And that's kind of the threshold of like, are you willing to do that? Because a lot of people they want, in one hand they're like, I want to film fishing and that's so cool, and the other hand they're like, but I don't want to work all those hours and travel that much and be gone. And it's a lot. I mean, there's no there's no way to say it's not, but if it's
Yeah.
something you want to do, you have to do it. I mean, there's no way around it.
Yeah. I think that's a great point too. And especially when you're talking to starting from the ground up, right? And not having an easier ish lane to get into that. Yeah, that's extremely important. Clint, would you add on to any of that?
Yeah, I think that time management balance at the end of the day, like how do you balance a full-time job with this gig, and how do you take the leap, right? Like if you've been working a full-time job for so long and you want to start to get into this, how do you make that leap? And I think financially, you need to be trying it. You need to be doing stuff for free on the side. You need to be doing stuff on the side to start to get that feel for it. Because if you're just bought a camera and you're figuring it out, you don't need to quit your job yet. You just need to work harder. Like you
Yeah.
need to work harder and learn how to tell that story. Because I look back at my YouTube videos in college when I was just a college student and I was making videos and all this stuff. They were awful. So it's like, I can't imagine if I took 18-year-old Clint and said, hey, here's a camera, go film and make a living. I couldn't have done it back then because I didn't know. I didn't know how to tell the story. I knew I liked telling stories, but I didn't know how to tell the story. I didn't know how to tell other people's stories. I could tell my own, but I didn't know how to tell other people's. So like when it goes into telling that story for other people, you have to have practice. You got to get your reps in. It's like you can't go lose 50 pounds in 6 months just because you started working out. Like you have to diet, you have to do the proper exercises, pay attention to every single aspect of your lifestyle to grow in those 6 months to get closer to that end goal, which the end goal might be lose 50 pounds or the end goal might be go full time and freelance. So like to get to that goal, you're not going to do that overnight. Like you can't learn overnight. Like I was every night in college, I would watch a YouTube video on some type of editing technique on YouTube to try to learn something. How do I do a glitch transition? How do I color grade for white balance? How do I build this storyline? How do I edit an Instagram reel to fit and make sure that my crop aspect ratio fits Instagram, doesn't get the quality crushed? Like those little things, I would watch a video every night trying to learn one thing every single day. So if you're getting 1% better every day, and you do that for 2 years while you're still working your 9 to 5 job that makes you miserable, then you can make that jump, and it's all that more worth it when you make that jump because it's sustainable. But you can't make that jump until it is sustainable. And sometimes it takes a long time. You're obviously still working a full-time job, and then you have all this video stuff on the side as well. But like, it might not make sense to make the jump and go fully into it yet. You're kind of being smart by making sure you lay that foundation, make sure everything's good. And like, you're fantastic at telling a story. You're fantastic at the video, but it's like, how do I manage the time at the end of the day to make this a feasible full-time job? Or do I kind of double dip? I have my 9 to 5, my safety that pays the bills, and this is the fun money on the side. Like, you have to figure out what suits your lifestyle. Do you have a family? Do you have a wife, kids, all that stuff? How do you support that? Because like, if you want to be a full-time freelancer, it's tough to be a family man when you're a full-time freelancer. So how do you find that balance at the end of the day?
Yeah, no doubt. And yeah, you have to be able to say yes to stuff that might make you uncomfortable. I know for me, getting started, like the first tournaments I was doing were like for like no money or like just for expenses. Like, I was doing it for just literally just experience, because I worked really hard kind of during COVID, like 2020, on like trying to get better at my craft. And so when some opportunities came up for literally no money at all, I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. And it led to more opportunities, right? And then after the classic, when Justin was like, hey, like, I might want you to film the whole season with me, my initial thought was like, I can't. I'm too busy. I already have a full-time job. I already have freelance obligations, blah, blah, blah. And honestly, like, my fiance Natalie was like, no, I think this is something like, if you want to do it, you need to just find a way to do it. And so I kind of had to like say, okay, like, this is going to be a lot, but you know, the only way to figure it out is to just take that leap and say, okay, we're doing it, and then learn as you go. I mean, really, the biggest thing is kind of like, sometimes you have to just take a chance, or, oh, that might be a lot of work, or that might be more than you think you can handle, but I bet if you put yourself in the fire, you figure it out pretty quick. So
100%. And like, I didn't mean to say like, if you're not like, don't take a risk either. Like, I think you're 100% right. I've taken plenty of risk, and a lot of them blew up in my face.
right.
But
Yeah.
if I didn't take any, if I didn't take any of those risks and I played it safe, I wouldn't be where I am today. So like, you definitely have to find that balance and get slapped in the face, but also don't be scared to reach out to guys like this, guys that have done it. All the guys that are on this show, shoot us a DM. Like, we're just camera guys, man. Like, we're willing to answer questions. Like, if you have questions, like, I've had guys reach out to me that are like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. And I'm like, dude, I'll shoot it to you straight. It's not easy, but there's a lot of mistakes that I've made that I would like for somebody who's 6 years behind me to figure out first, so they don't have to go through that pain. So they don't have to make those mistakes. They can do it better. Because like, I filmed in the entrepreneurship space last year. And all those guys do, the only reason they were so good at making all this money and selling houses and flipping houses and doing all this stuff is because they paid somebody else to teach them what they did. They get paid somebody else to have that shortcut. Not saying you need to pay somebody to teach you about camera stuff, but the more you learn, the faster you learn it, the more variables you eliminate, you can skyrocket to the top. I mean, we look at the Elite Series 6 years ago, and I went to a tournament. I was the only guy flying a drone. Now it's World War III out there with 76 drones in the air.
Kidding.
Like, people learn pretty quick.
New Jersey?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Yeah, it's crazy. But I mean, I think that's one of the big things is don't be afraid to ask questions, and don't be afraid to take the risks at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely agree. 100%.
Cletus, are you announcing your consulting services? Is that what you're saying here?
I have been mentoring a couple guys. I ain't gonna lie. I've been talking back and forth with some guys, not getting paid for it, just for the love of the game. But you know what? Maybe one day.
Oh yeah, love it.
That's right.
Okay, well, dude. So I know, obviously, with when you travel with Justin, you know, you're part-time filming, but you're also part-time babysitting because Justin is just a wild card. And so, what we'll leave you with here, and we'll let you go, is, do you have one story, whether from the road, on the boat, anything that comes to mind memorable that that stands out, traveling with Hamner and shooting for Hamner?
Oh, yeah, there's so many. Like, immediately, there's a lot. Um, the best one, though, was, we were in Alabama, and Justin booked the house because it's like, "Okay, it's your state, you booked the house." So, he rents this house for us, and it's awesome. Like, I show up, and I'm like, "Dude, way to go. Like, this is a sick spot." And we're, like, day 2 of the event, and I was back at the house, and so I wasn't on the water this day. I'm back at the house, and I'm editing, and they're out fishing day 2 of the tournament, and someone knocks on the door. I'm like, "What? Who? Like, what's going on?" I go to the door, and it's the lady that owns the place. She's like, "What are you still doing here?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" She's like, "You guys were supposed to be out by noon today. I have another, like, family of 8 coming in this afternoon." And I'm like,
Oh,
"You can't have a family of 8 coming this afternoon because all their stuff is here, and they're fishing till 4, like, there's no way. They can't get here and get their stuff out of here, like, they're fishing." And she's like, "Well, you need to call them right now and, like, contact them." I'm like, "I can't. They're literally fishing a tournament right now." And it was like Pat and Justin were there, and Tanner was on the water at the time. So, uh, long story short, she, like, came inside, invited, like, some of her friends over for lunch, and, like, so I'm just sitting there while her and her friends have lunch, and they're trying to figure it out because they have a family coming in, and they're trying to, like, switch it around, but she doesn't want a bad rating on, Airbnb, and so she ended up having to, like, call an HVAC guy to come get, like, a slip saying that their air conditioning broke, and that's why she couldn't have the next family come in
oh
so
my
that we could
God.
stay. So Justin got off the water that day. I'm like, "Dude, what the hell, man? Book it for the full weekend." He's like, "I thought I did." I'm like, "You booked it for a day."
Oh my God. I'm not even
So he's not
surprised though.
allowed to
That's
book anything.
oh
Awful.
God, yeah.
He lost those privileges pretty quick.
Yeah.
100%.
He probably did that on
100%.
purpose, though. That sounds like something Patrick might have taught him.
Yeah, you're not wrong there.
That's funny, man. All he was worried about was that damn Milo's, dude. That's all he's worried about. Just a
Yeah,
Not
sweet
for
tea
he
to
long.
make
didn't
it.
care about nothing else.
He's got to start looking for a different one. You never know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's funny.
he knows one thing, and it's bass fishing, and the rest of the little details like booking a house or where are we having supper, or he couldn't care less. If there's fish to catch, that's what's on his mind.
Sounds
Fair
about
enough.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, dude, thank you so much for taking time out, dropping some knowledge on the folks, and telling a little bit more about your experience and doing what you're doing. And dude, appreciate you hopping on here, and looking forward to seeing you at the Classic, man.
Yeah, I can't wait. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm excited for the Classic. This is going to be a good one. We're going back to Fort Worth.
Back to back,
That's
baby.
good.
Come
Dude,
on.
this is going to be a good time. I'm
Let's
looking
do it.
forward to it.
Is he calling it a shot yet?
I don't know. Maybe. I know he's I think he's actually getting ready to pre-practice right now as we speak. So I know he's
I'm
fired up. He
gonna
just had a
text him
baby.
right
He's
now.
fired up.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's
he's
true. I
fired up.
forgot. He's got number 2. I'm gonna text him
Yep.
right now. I'll be like, so run it back? Question mark, and see if he picks up on it.
He for sure will.
Yeah.
He for
Wow.
sure will.
Awesome.
So he's got a good shot, man. I think he's gonna have a good shot at it. I really do.
And we gonna find out. But dude,
That'll be a
again,
fun
thank
one.
you so much for the time.
Thank you. Good seeing you guys. I appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Good seeing you, dude. We'll see you at the next event.
See you at the next one.
Stay awesome. There you go, folks. Mr. Austin Sherwood. Can't wait for what's still yet to come of what he's got going on with Hamner, and also a big year coming up ahead. Because I mean, we joked about it slightly, but dude, I mean, he is a wild card.
Oh yeah.
Hamner, especially like
Yeah, that's gotta be a full-time job, even
Yeah.
though he's got a full-time job outside of that. Like keeping up with Hamner and Patrick, not to mention, I mean, and we've got some guys coming on that have to deal with the other half of that duo.
yeah, let's see in a different perspective. That's for
Yeah.
dang sure. But yeah, you got part-time filming, part-time caretaker when you deal with some of
No,
these guys. That's for
No
dang sure. But yeah, let's bring on the flip side here. They are no stranger to serious angler anyway, and We got two of the hardest working dudes in the space. We got the Lyons brothers. What's going on, Tanner and Travis?
What's up, guys?
What's up, boys?
Dude, so I had on McCoy, Scott's camera guy, McCoy Fisher. I think he was the first one, Clint, that we had on for this thing. And he was one of the first episodes of Serious Angler too. But I'm pretty positive. I don't know if you guys know as well, but I'm pretty sure you guys were under episode 52. Like I think you guys are pretty early on as well.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
it was a long time ago.
That was at Sabine. We were at the Sabine when we did that.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
All I remember,
it feels so long. I feel like time has passed so fast. I don't really remember when exactly that was, but I feel like it was a long time ago. But I think we were under 100 for sure on the podcast.
yeah, because that would have been over 5 years ago. You guys weren't married men or dads yet. I think it's Travis. So you're only the dad, right? Tanner, not you yet.
I've got one that's 13 months and another one I'm due in March.
Dang!
Congratulations, man. That's awesome.
I'm kidless. I'm good. I'm still living the fun life.
That's right. You said the boat is the only child you got.
That's right.
Hell yeah, dude. Well, yeah. So for any of the Serious Angler OGs, this is you guys are not new guests, but for anybody that is, this is their first time listening to you guys on this show. Tell a little bit about your guys' role, what you guys got going on with each other, and kind of how it started and why you guys have the passion to do what you're doing.
Man, I guess to start it all off, we worked for a very popular fishing company in the that's actually huge now. It's called 6 Cents Lure Company.
Never heard of it.
Tanner and I were two of the early employees there. Matter of fact, when we started, I think we were two of maybe 6 people that worked there in the entire company. And we quickly found ourselves in a role to where we were doing basically all dealer and online ordering. And we worked there for several years. It was a great job. Loved working with the people there. It was a really good stepping stone and foundation into the fishing world. Kind of gave us a good level head on our shoulders to kind of figure out what the world was like in the world of the fishing industry. And Tanner actually left to go pursue a TV show. And while I was working at 6 Cents, I was packing boxes and sending emails, and he shot for the TV show for 2 seasons. And he would go and travel to places like Guatemala and Indonesia and all these cool places. And I was back home here in Houston, sweating and getting work emails at 9:00 at night. And he came to me. He was like, "Man, I think you should do it. You should quit." So I prayed about it, thought about it for a long time, saved up a bunch of money, and finally quit. And my part of the story is, as soon as I quit, I had a legend bass boat at the time, and I blew the motor on it. I had about 15 grand saved up, and a weekend of me quit my job, blew the motor on it. And I think it cost me like 10 grand to fix.
Oh.
And I needed a boat. I just had to have one, and a lot of my money and that I'd saved up to give me a cushion to work freely, doing freelance stuff and kind of getting my feet under myself was gone. And so Tanner helped me through that. Through the TV show, he kind of got some connections, and he and I were splitting jobs at first, and we were both being gone for 2 or 3 days at a time, or maybe sometimes 4 or 5, and both of us taking home $200, for 5 days. And Tanner helped me through a really tough and difficult time. And then through that, man, we're just lucky. We've never picked up the phone and called anybody for work. Somehow the Lord just blesses us. Work just comes and finds us. And I swear sometimes our calendar is posted on Google somewhere, because it seems like when I do get a week or two around the house, someone's calling me wanting me to be in some state that's 1,500 miles away. So
I want to stop you real fast and say that's not luck. That's just when you do a badass job, you're in high demand. That's all I'll say, buddy.
Appreciate that.
You guys are definitely in high demand. I mean, and it just goes to show for your work, right? I mean, you guys have worked really hard to get to where you have all these people pulling for you. And I mean, your work speaks for itself. That you have your own creative style to it. It has that look. It's got that Twin Visuals look to it. Like, it looks cool and it's unique. And I think people want that. People like such a culture now where it's such short form. Everybody's consuming so much content. What makes y'all's work different? And you have that different look. You have the different ways that you take the attention to detail to tell the story. I think you guys do a really good job of like defining your own unique look that sets it apart from the rest of the content in the feed.
We appreciate that, Clint. We appreciate that.
So I guess to go off of that and obviously doing things individually, but also working together on stuff, what has been, the road to this moment now? What has been the biggest challenge for you guys? And I guess I'd like to pitch that to both of you and see if that perspective is different.
I'll be really honest. I don't think there's ever been a huge challenge other than being gone from home so much. I mean, obviously, I got married last year. That introduced a whole skew of challenges that I never had been familiar with. Being married, like before I got married, I was looking forward to leaving. I was glad to be gone and glad to work and stuff. And I'm still glad for all that. But being married and having a wife at home that's like, hey, you've been gone for a week and a half. I wish you'd come back home and mow the yard. Like that's just different stuff that you had never had to worry about before. Because I could leave and not worry about anything at the house for a week. It's just it sets you up in a different mindset, so to where you're actually worried about what's going on at home when you're gone. When we were younger, we took off. We started doing this when we were like 19, 20. And when you leave, then you're not worried about anything at home. You're not worried about anything back home at all, whoever, whatever.
You don't care about the yard?
No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all. And then
it was mom's yard at that point.
That's right. Yeah. Living at home at 19 years old. And no, you leave now and it's a little bit hard. He can speak more on that because he's got a kid at the house and he's got children and his wife's pregnant and things like that. So his struggle is a little bit different than mine. I'm just married and have no kids and my wife's not pregnant, so it's not that big of a deal for me. But
better knock on wood right now.
Exactly. Yeah.
Be careful.
The biggest challenge for me currently, I guess the only hurdle I guess I have to deal with in my life is how do I skew this? I'm not worried about the work. Like we grew up on a farm. I don't feel like a camera guy. I'm not a nerdy camera guy. I grew up on a farm and I know how to use tools. So my camera is, I just pick it up and I work. Like I don't worry about anything else. I get paid to show up and shoot videos. I go back home and edit them and that's pretty much it. But like my biggest challenge would be, how do I make this sustainable when I become, when I'm 40 and I have a 10-year-old or 2 kids or whatever. Obviously being younger, you can travel and be away from the house and you don't have as many responsibilities to tie you back to home base. But for me right now, I guess the biggest hurdle, the biggest challenge is not the work. It's not being gone. It's not traveling. I've done that long enough for 6 or 7 years now to where I'm kind of numb to it. It's just, to me, it's just crossing boxes off and making check marks. But the biggest hurdle for me mentally in my life right now currently is how do I make this sustainable to where I can be 40, 50 years old and still be traveling, because I have to be gone to make money. I have contracts and retainers. Travis and I work on a lot of contracts and retainers around the house that keep us busy and we can stay local, and him and I will get out because he's a great hand model and we'll take pictures and stuff around the house. So stuff like that is sustainable around the house. But like I shoot for NPFL and the elites, every single elite event with Pat. And so for me, I'm 20, I turned 28 this year. So it's like, okay, I'm at the point in life where I'm about to start having kids. My brother beat me to it.
Twice.
But it's like 2 times. Okay. So if my wife gets pregnant, can I shoot NPFL and the elites and still make it work? And so I would say the biggest hurdle for me is just scheduling and more of an outlook toward the future to figure out how I'm going to scale this and continue to be profitable and make money. I mean, we all do it because we love taking videos, we love telling stories, and we love being, creative. But I feel like, I mean, the big part of it is just, hey, we want to make money. I want to make a living doing something that I enjoy. I mean, if I was to lose all my video stuff in the next year, I would just go find a job down the street, and I wouldn't complain, and I'd have a regular life. But I'm blessed to be in a position where I get to work a job that I actually truly enjoy, and it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah.
So for me, how do I keep this train on the tracks, 10 years from now? I feel like that right there is my biggest hurdle. So.
Well, it sounds like Travis's hand just got to lead you guys to the glory land and make it.
That's right.
Yeah.
I just follow suit with Tanner, man, and he's the one who kind of got me to growing up when we were kids. Tanner was always the risk taker, man. He was always the one who just kind of went the direction that the wind blew, and I was always the one who needed a little bit more structure and was a little bit more, I guess, reserved as far as things like that goes. But man, your question was, what hurdles and struggles have we encountered up to this point? And I would say, to be honest with you, man, I mean, every freelance shooter has had deals go south. You've had people not pay you. Like everyone who's shot for anybody has dealt with that. And I wouldn't even consider that hurdles because it's just part of the job. But Tanner and I are fortunate, man. We're not like, if I was someone like Clint, you're only one person, you can only be one person you can only be one place at one specific time and shooting for one business at one specific place and time. And Tanner and I are lucky, dude. Like we're it's crazy because there's been plenty of times where I'm out of town and I get a call last second and it's a business here in Texas or someone in Oklahoma, someone close, and they're like, "Hey, I need you here for the next 2 days. Can you make it?" I'm like, "No, I can't, but my brother can because he's at the house." And we make it work, and both of us kind of go off without a hitch from that regard, and we've always been able to pick up slack where the other one can't make it. And it's as far as struggling goes now, the hard part now is really like we're at the point where we could hire someone to help us shoot and possibly an editor too. But I mean, as anyone who's done this line of work knows that it's extremely particular, and your work is your baby, and you don't want to turn something over to somebody that you didn't have the final, check mark on. And that's really the only hurdle I can think of up to this point. There's been some rough goes, but I think it's always worked, and we've always worked really well together. And like Tanner said, we were kind of raised by our father, who I've never seen a man work harder than my dad. He will literally work till his hands go numb. And that's exactly how we are with the camera. Like there's no quit. We just go and get the job done and come back home. And we're not some kind of fancy camera guys who want to be filming cool stuff when we're at the house. Like I just film it when I'm at the house, we're duck hunting or we're fishing or wiping kids' butts or doing stuff. Like both of us are huge on family, man. And when I don't have to pick the camera up, I don't pick it up. So
yeah, I want to make it a point here. What you mentioned there, the idea of we could hire somebody, but it's the hurdle of trusting them to do the job that's up to your expectations. Right. That just goes back to when people talk about, just delegate. Delegation is probably the hardest, most simplest concept.
Exactly.
It's because I feel that,
especially for us, like, and I'm not tooting our horn, but I feel like if you see a video on social media, you can tell if me and Trav shot it. We try to separate ourselves enough to be able to, like, for people to see, like, oh, that's different. That looks like Tanner and Trav. And so for us, it's like, I don't want to delegate someone to do that, because when people approach me and they want to hire me, they want to hire me for my work, not for somebody else's. So, I mean, you could schedule and land jobs for people that you don't know, or simple things like one-off things or whatever, and hire someone else to do that and contract that out. But for a lot of the stuff that we do, like, we've been blessed to where almost everything that we work on is a multiple year deal. It's not like a one-off deal. It's not like a 2-month retainer, or we're just going to test this out. Almost everything that I've done has been longer than like 3 years plus. And so
Smart.
For me, that's great because it's consistent and it's good money and it's reliable. But the problem we run into now is just, we've got so many multiple year deals that are just backed up together. And so now when, like, I can't take on I can take on more contract work around the house, but if someone else was to ask me to shoot the elites for them, like, hey, sorry, I can't. Like, I'm already with Pat. So I guess that's another struggle that I didn't really mention before, is just like literally bandwidth. Like, bandwidth is the biggest deal. It's great. We can handle a lot of work because it's two of us. Also, that's a plus on the marketing side, because if someone knows him, they know me. And so we've gotten a lot of things before.
I've gotten calls from people who think I'm Tanner.
Yeah.
They get my number from someone, and so I guess someone told them that maybe they had the number wrong in their phone and had me as Tanner in their phone. They'll call me asking me if I want to be somewhere to work. I'm like, well, that's great. I don't mind doing it, but I'm not Tanner.
Yeah.
I'm sure nobody calls you Tanner in person either. Right? They never mix it.
There's no way that gets mixed up.
Not even
Never.
our grandparents. Not even our grandparents.
Yeah.
They both just hug you and say, I'm glad you're here.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, it sounds like old Elon Musk needs to learn how to clone people quicker than sooner than later. So yes,
we got to figure it out. We're good.
Yeah,
I feel like you guys do, though, because being just a solo freelancer, it's like the amount of work you turn down as a solo guy is like, dude, you can only hold so much. Like at the beginning of this year is when I was like, okay, I'm throwing it all at the wall, getting as many contracts as possible. And I was the most miserable I'd ever been because I took on way more than I could handle.
Yeah.
But with you guys, you're able to be like, hey, like, how do we balance this? Right. And actually we're able to like realistically have somebody that not only gets it, not only has the same style, produces the same work. You literally have two guys doing the same thing with the same energy towards the same common goal, and being able to work that out at the end of the day. It's pretty magical what you guys have put together. And it only shows like you guys have like worked so hard to get where you're at. And that's why you have so many people coming after you, but you're also doing a pretty dang good job of balancing it too, because being able to say that you're doing this stuff with the NPFL, you're filming for elite guys, you're doing all this contract work around the house, like to look at your resume and what you're knocking out. Yeah. Not to mention the wives and kids that you're keeping happy every single day. Yeah. Like you guys are pretty dang good at time management. And I think it's pretty awesome.
It's been like, that's been something that I've really been more cognizant of in the last couple of years, is just time management. Because before when you're young, it's easy just to put your head down and just like shovel through everything you have in front of you and not worry about what you have, behind you that's waiting on you. And so if like from a work front, it's been always easy for us to just put our head down and go. But now obviously with the change in our lives and our lifestyles, owning a home and being married, stuff like that, that's been a huge constant for me. And especially even like on a brother level, like our relationship, I've always valued, like Travis and I are tighter than can be. And that's why it's great to have someone like him on my side where I can call him and be like, hey, like if there was ever a moment where I was like, hey, I have to have this video done by tomorrow, but I'm busy, I could put the stuff in a Dropbox and be like, hey, will you like please edit this and get it done for me? And I know he would do it. And there's been times where we've had to do that before. And it's hard in this industry. It's hard to find someone who's like-minded. We like a lot of the videographers, like every video guy is kind of different, but we're also kind of the same. So it's hard to find someone that you can truly like rely on and depend on. And especially for me, like, we've been so head front and headstrong in our craft and doing what we do. So it's like, to us, it's kind of an afterthought to hire someone else to do it for us or edit or pick up a shoot or whatever. So we've always just really heavily relied on both of us. But for us, that aspect of it has been probably the most paramount aspect of anything in our careers, just having two of us, just to help out and to pick up extra slack. Because I know that he has my best interest in mind, and I have his best interest in mind. Like I'm worried about him and his finances and his family, and he's worried about my finances and my family, because we both want to be happy and we both want to be in good moods when we go fishing together and stuff like that. Yeah. And so that's also, it's just it's been kind of crazy, because I was the one that kind of took off and started this, and then I got to basically force his hand into doing it with me. And so it's been cool for me. I say as a bigger brother, I'm only 30 seconds older than him.
Hey,
but
it still counts.
Yeah, 100%. I'll always hold it to him. But seeing him grow from the time that he started, and then I get to a point where he starts making videos, and I'm like, those might be better than mine. Like, I got to step my game up because he's about to kick my ass.
Dude, it's the perfect storm too. Because Tanner will shoot something and send it over to me, like, what do you think about this? I'm like, dang, like, I want to say it's good, but I want to tell him he needs to change this. Because it's like we're constantly motivated by each other, and that's healthy. You know, everyone needs that.
Oh yeah.
Everyone needs someone they can compete with on a healthy level, not just in spite. You know. But.
Yeah, they'll say a good friend supports you and will encourage you. A great friend will be critical.
Exactly.
That's right. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
And you have to have that to fuel the fire too. And I think one thing that's cool too is the story you guys are telling, right? You're telling the story of fishermen and these brands, and like if I wanted to go film real estate right now, I could. Sorry, I messed up. I could hire any Joe, the camera guy, muting his mic. I could hire a Joe Blow to go film a real estate house, and it's going to look roughly the same, right? But if you guys hire somebody to go shoot a product shoot for a fishing brand, it is not going to be the same. It is not going to match the style, the feel of your work. Like if I go hire somebody for real estate, like that's easy to go hire a bunch of subcontracts. Like, hey, let's maximize as many houses as possible. Like it's filming real estate. It's simple. It's an easy story. It's a house. The walls, they don't move. Like, but then when you go tell a fishing story, like you can't hire just anybody to go tell that story.
That's right.
Or a brand, or you have to get it to be in this industry. So I think it's awesome that you guys are able to tell that story and can work together to almost have the luxury of being able to hire somebody else, but you're not, because you're both internal and you're both telling a similar story in the same light. And I think that's what makes it pretty special. So it's pretty awesome.
I would honestly speak to the fact that like I'm a very simple person. I want to have my home life and I want to have my work life, and I want to get my work done. I want to go shoot and edit, come home, get my stuff done. And then if I'm done, I don't have to edit. I'll go duck hunt or go bass fish for a couple of days. Like I want to have my time to myself. And that's a huge part of what him and I have been going through, is just like finding time to do things that you enjoy. And I know Clint, you and I were messaging on Instagram about some fish you were catching, whatever. Like we need that time for ourselves to go fish or hunt, whatever it is, just to get back to center in order to do a better job, to be more creative. Because if I get bogged down and I'm busy, like I start to realize that my videos get like very monotonous, and I'm like, okay, these are the same shots that I shot on the last project that I worked on, whatever. So you need that time for yourself to be creative. And I feel like that's a huge part of what we do, is just finding that time for yourself. I can't stress on how big of a deal it is there has to be a dividing line. Like everything can't just be go, go, go. There has to be a dividing line with whatever you do, whether it's a 9 to 5 or whatever. There's got to be a dividing line. And I feel like that's what sets us apart. Like him and I can be busy, slammed. Hey, what are you doing? Oh, I'm editing. Okay, we'll get done at 1 o'clock and we're going to go fish for the rest of the evening. Like just you and me as brothers. Like leave your kid at the house. We'll go fish. We'll just go fish. We need stuff like that, especially him and I, just as brothers. And like, I'm really big on everything has to be in sync for everything to line up and for it to be hitting on all cylinders. So like, I got to make sure my wife's good. I got to make sure he's good. I got to make sure my work's good. And I'm caught up on that. I'm not stressed out about anything. Then I go do my fun stuff, enjoy my time. And then it's almost like everything is just the full circle is connected.
Slate's clean. You're avoiding the burnout. Yeah.
That's right. And then you're excited for the next trip. Because if you're bogged down before you leave for a trip, and I'm sure you're best of this, if you're bogged down and you're busy, like the last thing you want to do is pack that bag and leave the house, because you're like, I have so much stuff I need to get caught up on here. And then
you leave when the grass isn't cut, dude, you're in trouble.
That's right. That's right.
in more ways than one. Like sometimes if the grass isn't cut, and then sometimes if the work isn't done yet. You know?
That's right. So
Yeah.
I feel like, I mean, what we do is not like glorious. It looks cool, but at the same time, like we're just busting our tails and trying to make a living. But it's all about balance, man. Like for me, like a lot of the stuff that I've spoken to, it's just for me, it's all about balance, staying busy, staying happy, maintaining a healthy home life with your wife and your brothers, and obviously like your friends too. I mean, for me, it's easy to like leave and then come home and only spend time with my wife. But like as men, you need times with your friends and your brother, and so it's just all about. It's a huge freaking gimbal, and you have to keep it balanced. That's all it is.
Yeah.
The main.
That's a good way to look at it.
I
Yeah.
like the camera nerd.
Yeah.
It's a freaking DJI gimbal.
Yep.
You have to make sure that it's weighted correct.
Yeah. Well, and just that's a question I'd love to ask you. So we've been trying to take advice from every person we've had on this show, and I guess with you guys, I want to be a little bit more directed with it because you brought up, especially between the two of you, how many different projects you're getting tasked. Like, you know, Travis, you mentioned you get home for 2 weeks. It's like people know your calendars out there. They're gonna call you and try to schedule something else. So it's, I guess, for somebody that is new to this line of work and they're onboarding clients and they're starting to see their schedule becomes busy. What piece of advice would you guys have for prioritizing what new clients to bring on, how you pick and choose work, things like that, if that makes sense? Like when you start doing good work, obviously demand's going to start coming your way. And how do you best prioritize what new work you should bring on, if that makes sense, without overloading yourself?
I feel like in any industry, depending on, I mean, I guess it really doesn't depend on what you're shooting it, and whatever you're deciding to pick up. Obviously, all of us are filming fishing because we have a passion in it, and if you have a passion in it, you know pretty much who the heavy hitters are and who you would dream of filming for, and there's all sorts of we see it all the time, little one-off companies and things that come up. Brands that are short-lived, things like that. And I'm not opposed to taking any work from anybody because I just love telling stories and I love helping people out. He likes making money too, and I love making money.
Yeah.
But
hey, nobody doesn't.
My advice to anybody who finds himself in that situation would just be to, like Tanner mentioned earlier, a lot of we're fortunate enough that a lot of the contracts we've had have been pretty long-lasting contracts, to the tune of a couple of years, and in the fishing world, that's a long time. Like you don't see really, like even down to the fisherman's level, you hardly see anybody with a title sponsor that lasts that long, or a boat deal that lasts that long, things like that. And so my advice to that person would be, you don't have to say yes to any work. You know, like you can turn anybody down. Now, when it comes to funds and money, then that's completely up to you. But take a look at the companies you're deciding to work for before you even say yes, and say, hey, what could this work out to be? How do I see myself fitting into this brand for the next 4 to 5 years if it was to work out that long? And take it and run with it, man. Like no holds barred, just take off.
Yeah, I think that's a 1-2. It's great to take advice like that, but also you kind of just got to go through it, right? Like you got to kind of get that understanding for yourself.
And we were watching the show earlier and heard Clint and Austin say taking free jobs. And this is kind of this is, I guess, prior to the question you're asking, if someone finds himself being too busy. But I'm never afraid to take a free job. And even in the state that Tanner and I are at, and I don't mind trading off photo and video for product if it's something I can get behind and I want to use in my own personal stash for gear, traveling, or whatever. Obviously, I don't do that too often just because I got mouths to feed and a wife to keep happy. But, dude, free jobs got me so far. A lot of the jobs that I took that were free that I never even made a dime off of, I may have not even gotten a contact back for the next year from that job. But it always found its way back to me, whether it was a year, 2 years, 3 years later. Someone saw that video. As a matter of fact, one of my wife's cousin rides motocross. He races dirt bikes, and he called me one day randomly. It was about 3 years ago, and he's like, "Hey, I know you film and take photos. Can you just come take photos of me riding my dirt bike?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. I've never filmed
Uh-oh. Are they frozen on your side too? Uh-oh.
Yeah.
They're giving out too much knowledge. The internet cut them off.
Too much juice. Dude, these guys are heady when it comes to the industry. Like, these guys have worked so hard to get where they're at. And like, it shows. Like, they're just very even keeled when it comes to showing up, getting it done, pressing record, dumping the footy, editing a movie, you know.
Yeah, I'd say they got a pretty damn stout resume. If I would say, oh, I think we got him back in here.
Hey, it literally just crashed out. I have no idea what happened.
No, you're good. You're good. We just figured you guys thought you were too good for us, and you faked
yeah.
you faked the pause.
Here
You just did the freeze frame.
Yeah, they're holding still. Still.
They don't know.
Back to what I was saying. Yeah, he asked me to come. My wife's cousin asked me to come film some motocross stuff for him, and I went out and shot it. Dude, it was so fun. I wasn't getting paid. There was no pressure. I just sat there and filmed him riding his dirt bike for like 2 hours. Made a little video of it, posted it, never thought anything of it. Well, dude, now, even still to this day, that was a few years ago, and I still get direct messages on Instagram asking if I shoot motocross or like what I film. And I've had a few brands reach out to me saying they saw that video and were interested if I could do some stuff like that for in different industries and things like that. It's just funny, man. Like, I'm not ever against filming something or stepping out on a ledge that I've never been on. And I'm definitely comfortable in being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
In situations like that. So
that's awesome. Yeah, that's a great note. Like, even if it's going out of your way for 30 minutes or if it's 2 hours, right? You know, it's something like that can turn into something big where it's, you know, definitely don't, you know, fill your whole entire schedule up with free work. Like, try to find paid work, right? But it's like you say, though, don't be too proud to, you know, especially if it's something new and it's out of line that could, you know, and, you know, help you learn, help you improve, whatever it may be. You know, back to what Tanner was saying too, or maybe that can invoke something different from a creative standpoint to give you something that can translate, you know, to what you guys are doing in the outdoor space. So it's that's a great point, man. And I guess, Clinton, before we hit him with the last question, you got anything else for these boys?
I don't know. What's a fun story of where one of the brothers messed up and the other one had to tell him he messed up?
Oh,
He's got some good ones.
I'm lost.
Deleting SD cards, formatting them on accident.
Oh, shoot. Yeah.
Dropping a hard drive that's like full of Elite Series tournament videos that it corrupts the hard drive and he has to get it repaired.
Yeah, we weren't working together on that one. So I guess it does count. I dropped a hard drive while we were filming at the St. Lawrence River I was filming for Drew Cook and Drew Benton, and I dropped a hard drive and thought I lost everything. But there's a guy here around the house that's worked on some of our stuff before, and luckily I got everything back. But that was not a call that I was looking forward to calling Tanner and telling him about.
I saw him at the weigh-in. I think it was on day 3 at St. Lawrence. And he just looked like he was so frustrated. I'm like, what's going on, dude? And, like, it's weird because, like, we're both at the Elite Series tournament, but I don't see him at all because he's staying with Drew and I'm staying with Pat. And so we're both there and, like, we're texting, like, hey, what's Drew got? What's Pat got? Whatever. But I saw him at the weigh-in and he was, like, just frustrated. I was like, what's going on? He's like, I dropped my hard drive last night and I can't get any of the files to show up on it. And so he was all stressed out. We flew back home and he found some guy to repair it for him, but it all worked out.
It was not cheap either. That's a business I'm getting into when my camera fries out on me.
Repairing hard drive.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's expensive.
We haven't had any like major. I don't think we've ever had any like major like red alert type.
One funny story. This is like, it's a story where one of us messed up, but both of us were there, so no one had to tell the other one because we both witnessed it. We were hired to do a promo video for the city of Gainesville's fire department, the town that we grew up in, and we had filmed at the fire department all day. And I'm probably gonna die laughing if I can actually.
Hopefully, no one from the Chamber of Commerce in Gainesville sees this.
Yeah, if anyone from the Chamber of Commerce in Gainesville is watching this, I'm sorry. That is just now coming out.
So don't send this to them then.
You can.
Yeah, it'd be a great outlet.
Yeah. So we filmed at the fire department all day, and right before I guess it was all morning. We got there around 7, filmed till lunchtime. Everyone was about to leave the fire department, and they said, "Hey, we're all going to lunch. Y'all do whatever you need to do, and I guess we'll thank you for your work. We'll see you guys later." Well, Tanner and I had like a few more shots. We wanted to get to the building. We wanted to send the drone up, get it like a couple drone shots of the building, and we just interviewed somebody of them explaining that they just got 4 new fire trucks, and they're all somewhere in the $1 million
like $1 million fire trucks.
And so they left the bay doors up for us. We were going to do some cool stuff with the drone. Well, Tanner backed this drone up and was doing kind of like a pull out shot of the fire department, and his drone hit a power line. And when it hit the power line, a blade slung off, and the drone just went haywire and flew straight through the fire department.
So if you're looking, it's a big, like, it's a multi-million-dollar facility, like 4 bay doors in the front, huge fire engines parked in every bay, and they're like perfectly shined up and clean, like a clean rig for a fire truck.
Yeah.
And so if I'm looking down the side of the door, I'm like to the side. I'm looking down the doors. I'm not looking at them. And I'm trying to get like behind my truck so I can see some shade to see my screen. And I'm just watching my drone, and I was going to do like a backup and reveal shot of all 4 doors with the engines in them. And I just hear blades slapping, and I'm like, my drone, I don't know what happened. It hit the power line, and I don't know if like power was like transmitted from the power line to the drone, but I let off the sticks as soon as I heard that. And I literally let off the sticks, and the drone shot. I'm looking down the doors, and my drone flies into the fire station, like through the doors into the fire station. And so I let off, and it's still just, I had on sport mode, and it just freaking whips into the fire station, and I'm like, oh gosh.
And so, we heard it hitting all kinds of stuff. We were outside, we didn't even see it. We just heard all kinds of ruckus. It was hitting all kinds of stuff.
Oh no!
Oh no! They're like, wait, we probably should stop. They're freeze framing again.
They're frozen from all the drone ruckus in the fire department.
Yeah. They're like, maybe we shouldn't tell this story.
Yeah.
Dude,
that's funny.
I saw, I think it was Sam Moore, who also would have been an amazing guy to get on this thing.
Yeah.
He was selling for sure, dude. He was selling a drone too, and I was talking to him because I was actually thinking about buying it.
The Mini
I'm like,
4.
you know what?
Yeah, you should buy that.
I was thinking about it, dude, but I'm like, you know what? It'll take me literally 30 minutes my first trip, and I will crash that sucker.
You won't crash that. I promise. You won't.
See, just you saying that, now I will crash it.
You won't crash it. I'm telling you. You won't. You should buy it. That's a good deal too. I thought about it. You should buy it.
Oh. Now you're making me go spend a lot of money. Just you can see I'm really bad at peer pressure.
You know how much money I spent on tackle this week? It's been bad.
Was it more than that drone?
It's bad.
Maybe not more than the drone, but it was okay. Maybe it was more than the drone. Dude, yeah, I just went and splurged on that. You seen that pink lemonade throwback Metro glide bait?
No, I haven't.
I'll have to send you it. It's a new one or not really new, but they're kind of trendy right now. Throwback baits. They make glide baits.
Yeah, they make cool glide baits for sure.
Yeah, it's called the Metro or something like that. That pink lemonade one that they always post. I finally got my hands on a pre-order because I'm horrible at making the drops on time, dude.
Yeah.
So I finally put in the pre-order.
Drops are tough to get a hold of. That swim bait game is not. They don't play.
It's like Black Friday shopping like 5+ years ago, dude. You got to be there, like, ready to go.
100%.
It's looking like we probably won't be getting Tanner.
Are they just gone? Are they out?
Oh wait, okay, we got him here.
We got to get
Dude, I don't know what's going on. It literally just keeps crashing out.
I thought you guys were camera guys, bro. Come on.
I know. I'm on my iPad.
Our camera guys, not iPad guys.
You got that Conroe connection, son.
Technology's trying to save you guys from incriminating yourself. So
I'll do a speed connection if you want to see my speed connection.
No, you're good.
No, you're good.
You're good. Just rock and roll with it.
No,
All right,
but
so
no,
you got a
anyway,
drone buzzing around some fire engines.
Everybody was gone. Thank God they went to lunch. I flew my drone straight into a fire department. It left like blade rash all on the walls, like way high up on the walls.
How did it just keep going?
I couldn't find it. I pulled my phone up on the GPS, like on the DJI app, and I couldn't find it. And there's an app, there's like a function where you can hit the button and it'll start flashing
and beeping,
and like maybe I think beeping, maybe I don't know, but I hit that button and it was all the way because when it first went into the fire department, the GPS on the drone was like zapped. And so it says like on the drone, it says how far away from the controller it is. And I was looking and it said like 800 feet, 900 feet, 1,000 feet, 2,000. Like it was just climbing. And I'm like, there's no way. I walked around the door and they had the 4 bay doors open. And in the back, there was a big bay door. And I was like, there's no way that my drone flew in one door and out the other and it's still getting away from me. So I hit that button and it started flashing and Travis and I looked and it was literally hanging on a mop rack. Like they hang like mops like that they brush the floors with and stuff. And it went all, you could see prop rash all down the wall and it flew and it hung itself by some wires. Like one of the motors on one of the propellers literally like imploded and the wires were hanging down. And it was hanging from the mop rack, and it was just sitting there flashing. So they're all at lunch, and I grabbed my drone and I texted the lady from the Chamber of Commerce, and I was like, "Hey, we're all done here. Thanks so much for your time. We'll get the video to you in a couple days." And that was pretty much it.
The damage was nothing was really damaged. We saw a few marks on the wall where you could tell the props hit, but other than that, there was no damage.
I just hoped when I saw it
to clarify.
Yeah.
When I saw it fly through, I was like, I hope this thing didn't center punch like
a fire engine,
like a windshield of a fire engine. Because I'm sure, like, if it's $1 million fire truck, the windshield probably costs like 20 grand or something like that. And so I walked around the corner and him and we checked all the trucks and stuff and nothing. Somehow it went like at an angle and just hit the wall and went all the way down the wall and hit the mop rack. And so it was that to me, like the funny thing is I literally bought that drone like 2 weeks prior to that. And that was the first time
what drone was it?
It was
Mavic 2.
No, it was Air 2. It was an Air 2.
Was it Air 2?
A Mavic Air 2.
It was that green one that had a wrap all over it, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't that one. That one just fried itself out. But no, yeah, it was a Mavic Air 2. And I bought that drone like 2 weeks prior to that, and I took it with me to Alaska. And I was flying it in all these rivers and like all this crazy scenic stuff, and then it met its end
at a
fire station in Gainesville, Texas. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, that's the only major story we have of like something going crazy wrong.
Yeah, that's about it.
I mean, like other than like dropping hard drives or losing files, that kind of stuff, I feel like is pretty consistent or regular to the job that we work. But that's the most memorable thing that I've ever thought of that we can explain.
That's a pretty good one. that's
pretty solid.
What's the craziest thing that's happened on the water?
He got freaking hooked by Dakota E-Bear one time.
Yeah, Dakota E-Bear put a hook in my thigh.
Oh, that's fun.
How did that happen?
We were at Sam Rayburn filming. I think it was Okeechobee. I think it was. It was Okeechobee for the Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit, and we had filmed all day. And at the very end of the day, he was all the way across the lake. He was about to run in. He's like, "I'm just gonna go over here and throw a jerkbait." And I was like, "All right, well, I might sit down." Well, we started catching him pretty good at the very he was like, "I'm gonna make 20 casts and we're gonna roll." And he catches like 3 and 3 casts. So I was like, "I'm gonna pick the camera up."
and I was on the back deck, and I had stepped onto the center console, into the floorboard, and I was making my way up to the front deck, and I had my leg up in the air like I was taking a big step, and he was right in the middle of his back cast, and he cast it. I just heard his reel blow up, and I had pants on at the time, or no, shorts. I had some shorts on at the time, and I heard his reel blow up, and at the time I was like, man, I don't know. I wonder what he just backlashed out of nowhere. I've never seen him backlash. And I looked down, I had a hook in my leg. I didn't even feel it. I didn't even notice it. And funny story. And Dakota, if Dakota watches this, he'll probably think this is hilarious too, because when he saw the hook was in my leg, I could tell he was freaking out, and that's not what you want to see when you're the one with the hook in your leg. And he's like, I know the braid trick. I can do it. I can get it out. Well, he tied the braid up to it, and he goes 1, 2, and he jerked on 3. And if you ever had a hook in your leg, the key, if you know what you're doing, you jerk on 2. He jerked on 3 and it didn't come out. Well, he's like, all right, let me do it again, dude. And it hurt so bad. I'm turning pale in the face, like getting nauseous. He's like, all right, let me try it again. 1, 2, 3, jerks again. It doesn't come out. And I was like, all right, dude, just I can live with the hook in my leg for a little bit. It was hurting so bad. And I think it was wasn't there I don't remember his first name, but I think there was a guy named, his last name was Tut.
Yeah.
I forget what
Did he have
name.
the
I forget who it was at the time. But whoever
we talking
it was,
treble hook here?
yeah, treble.
It was a jerk bait. Yeah,
It was a jerk bait.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And it was right in the meaty part of the front of my thigh. And
oh god.
yeah, it wasn't it wasn't the worst place, but it wasn't the best. Anyways, I forget who he flagged over, and whoever he flagged over, we were fishing the same grass line as this other boat that was in the tournament. This was on a day of practice, luckily, and he came over. I wish I knew the guy's name, man, because I would love to give him props. He pulls right over here. He used monofilament instead of braid, which I didn't know was a deal, but I guess it is a deal because the stretch apparently helps. And he used monofilament, tied it up to the hook in my leg. And he looked at me and he said, hey, you have a girlfriend? And I said, yeah, I do. And this was my now wife. She was my girlfriend at the time. And he said, you have a picture of her? And I said, yeah, I got a picture of her. He's like, let me see it. Is she hot? And I said, yeah. I said, she's pretty hot. Like, I think she's pretty hot. And I get my phone out of my pocket, and about the time I go to pull my phone out of my pocket, I feel a tick on my leg, and he's already got the hook out.
Oh, okay. That's part of.
It was pretty cool, dude. I really wish I remembered that guy's name. It was funny.
That's a way to do it.
That's a good way to get distraction. Yeah.
Took my mind off of it for sure.
You're probably like, why does this guy want to see a picture of him?
Yeah.
That is never fun, especially when you miss it. Like when it doesn't come out, a second time.
No, 2 times I was ready to tap out, dude. I was like, I'm pretty sure I don't get like queasy from pain or blood or anything, but I'm pretty sure I may have dry heaved over the side of Dakota Ebert's boat like once or twice after that happened.
I can imagine, dude.
It hurts,
folks. Yeah. Oh, jeez. Tanner, you got anything?
No, I've never been hooked. Pat's never hooked me. I've never been hooked.
Again.
Fishing, like even on my own, I've never been hooked. No one that I've ever filmed for has hooked me.
What's the weirdest thing
John
Patrick
Hunter's
Walters
boat,
does?
The bottom of John Hunter's boat falling apart.
Oh yeah, well, that was the one time John's freaking boat sank at Champlain. That's probably because I used to shoot for John Hunter. I shot for him for like 3 years, and so like when you're a camera guy for somebody, you also become like their pit crew. And John drove his truck all the way down to the bottom of Champlain. And he's like, all right, we're going to put in here and you'll film with me. And then I'm going to drop you off at my truck and you can drive all the way back to the top end and you can pick me up there. And so like my drone and like some of my camera gear and stuff is in his boat. And he's like, I'll meet you at this ramp at like 7 o'clock or 6:30, whatever the time was. So I get to the ramp. He drops me off. I get his truck and I drive to the ramp. And around that time, like I text him like, hey, I'm here.
where you at? And he didn't respond. And like 30 minutes goes by, and I'm like, hey, dude, is everything okay? You all right? He never responded, never called. I called him like a few times. He never answered. And then I see this this boat pulling up to the ramp, and they're towing a boat, and like all you can see is like the bow of it. The whole boat is like underwater. And fast forward, like that morning when we took off, we were just getting on pad as soon as we left the ramp, and it almost felt like he slung a like it almost felt like he slung an ear on his prop. There was like a little bit of resistance, and then it kind of just broke free. But I guess what happened is his boat delaminated, and the entire day we were fishing, it was just taking on water. And I guess it got so bad at the end where it almost sank his boat. But I'm like at the ramp waiting on him, and I have his truck like backed into the slot on the ramp, and no one was up there at that time of year. There was nobody up there. So I was sitting in the boat ramp stall, like with the trailer in the water, and I see a fire truck pull up, and I'm like, that's odd. And then I see John's boat. I see his boat wrap. I see his boat wrap, like his boat, the tongue of his boat, like it's just barely the bow of his boat was out of the water, and he's getting like tugged in. And this boat is just like under such a bad load trying to pull him in. And then a local news station pulls up to the ramp, and they're like trying to film John and like asking him what happened. And it was we somehow got his boat on the trailer, and it was a freaking mess. Like, but somehow my equipment, shout out to the boat manufacturer, my equipment in the back of the boat that was completely underwater was still perfectly fine. But that's been one of the craziest things for me is like calling him. Like he was basically like sinking, like the front of his, like all that was left like out of the water was the front deck of his boat. He had to flag somebody down, and they towed him in. Pretty wild.
How the hell did the news crew get a hold of that?
No, I guess because he called it in. I guess he called 911, and like I have no idea. It was wild. It was freaking wild.
They're like, hey, some dummy sinking his boat.
Right.
Bring your crew.
Yeah, must have not been much going on up there at that time.
Yeah, no kidding.
That's
shout out to John.
Right. Yeah. Shout out John Hunter.
That's awesome. Well, Clinton, you got anything else for these boys?
What's the weirdest thing Patrick Walters does?
I honestly couldn't tell you one weird thing that he does. Like Patrick and I love shooting for Pat because him and I are like best friends. Like I'll call him when I get done duck hunting, and I'll be like, yo, I suck at duck hunting. I didn't kill any ducks today. Like he'll be like, you freaking suck. Like,
he spends some time with
but
Pat.
we're best friends. Like I couldn't tell you like one weird thing that he does. I've never.
Is there anything weird he does in fishing, like that you're like, somehow Pat's throwing this yellow trick worm and catching them, and like,
I mean, I've seen him throw some crazy shit, but like 9 times out of 10, if he ties something on, it's gonna be like off the wall. He does it just because it's like it's in his mind, but because it's in his mind, he has to tie it on, but he's not gonna throw it. Like he'll think of it. I've seen him do that like a million times this year. It's like, dude, I guarantee this would be like money. And he'll tie it on, and then he won't even throw it. It's just like things that he goes through in his mind, like when we're sitting down rigging rods and I'm filming or whatever, dude, I bet I could catch him on this, and he'll tie whatever it is on, and then he won't even pick it up. He'll pick up a freaking minnow and ping him.
Sounds about right.
But there's not awesome. Like Pat, like everybody asks me because they know that I film for Pat, and I'm extremely lucky to be able to be involved with him because he's
awesome. And it's not just Pat, like he comes with his family, his parents, everybody's awesome.
His dad, Big T, and his mom, like his wife, everybody is like, his whole family is amazing. They're fun to be around. Like his parents come to all the elite events, and Big T cooks up freaking brown
he keeps
rice.
Y'all fed.
Yeah, dude. And I'm like, that's one of the best parts about filming for him. But there's not one thing that I could really point out that he does that's like crazy different.
I honestly think that's like, I think that's what makes him so good is like, the main thing that I feel like what makes Patrick good is he's the same person if he's catching him or if he's not.
Yeah.
Like if he's on him, he's smashing him, you're getting the same Pat as you would if he's in 70th place. Like
Yep.
he just, to him, it's another day of fishing. It's another day of tournament fishing. It's just competition, but he doesn't let it get him down. He doesn't
He's
let it
all
get
gas,
sad.
no brakes,
That's
whether
right.
he catches them or not.
That's right. And I feel like, to me, I've been around enough fishing people, and I've filmed in boats on tournament days where guys have lost freaking 20-pound stringers, whatever. The guys who are able to bounce back and not let that like affect them mentally are the most lethal ones. And Patrick has been the only person, one of the only few people that I've filmed for that is not. It's just like everything is water off a duck's back. Everything's water under the bridge.
He can go struggle in Florida and then win Murray, you know?
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right, dude. That's right. Him and I had that conversation because he was like, shout out to Pat, but he was like, he went to Florida, didn't even like, I think he was 60th place in both Florida tournaments. Did not have a good run in Florida. And then right after that, we left and we were leaving Florida, and he was like, "Man, I freaking suck at fishing. Like, I suck at fishing." And I was like, I don't really think that you suck at fishing. You just suck at fishing in Florida this year. Like, you've done good at the St. John's. Like, it's just Florida will take your money. Like, Florida is the hardest place ever. And I told him, I was like, dude, it's a season, man. Like,
I think he won Murray.
He started off the season. He got like a top 10 at Fork and then like a second place at Toledo. And then we go to Florida and he doesn't do good. He's like, man, this season's just mediocre. And I'm like, Pat, chill out. Chill out, dude. Chill out.
Yeah.
And then he wins Murray. And then after he won Murray, he was like, man,
we had an MPFL event.
Not to mention winning an MPFL.
Yeah. And so I'm like, hey, it's been a pretty decent season for you, buddy. It's been
pretty decent.
I mean, Pat is one of the most outstanding people I've ever shot for. Love hanging out with him. His family is just like an included bonus. They're great people. Love hanging out with them. Big T's kept me fed all year, and I love it. I'm looking forward to the next year. It's gonna be fun. Hopefully Pat can freaking pull it out at the Classic on Ray Roberts. Me and Trav actually grew up fishing Ray Rob. So.
Oh, Ray Bob.
That's cool.
We grew up about 11 miles from that boat ramp.
Really?
Dang. Yeah. Well, so then bias out of it, you know. Obviously, I'm sure you're rooting for Pat, right? But who's you guys' pick for the Classic?
Dude, I mean, so just from us being up there, Chris Zaldane lives probably 10 miles from where we grew up. And I would say I don't really know about the rest of the elite field, but he's probably one of the closest.
Did he qualify for the Classic?
He's probably one of the closest. Yeah, he did. Yeah. He's probably one of the closest guys that he lives closer to the lake than I think anyone else on the Elite Series. Lee Livesey's not far, a couple hours. Yeah, but
there's a lot of guys out there putting in time right now.
Did Livesey qualify? I haven't looked at who all qualified for the Classic.
Yeah, I think
Livesey would be one I would watch.
He was up there.
Livesey would be one I would watch on Ray Roberts. I shot for Brandon Belt. It's a big team series in Texas.
Yeah.
And aren't they done now?
Yeah, they are done, which is wild to me.
I
hate it. It was one of the best local team trails that the state of Texas had going. It sucks to see them go out, but I was there. I filmed and shot Lee winning on Ray Roberts, and Lee's fished Ray Roberts a lot, so he's familiar with that body of water. He'd be one to watch, in my opinion, especially around that time of year. Lee knows East Texas fish. In like the whole pre-spawn phase, and like Ray Roberts used to be a factory, and it still is. It still has fish in it, but I feel like the fish population from the last time that the elites went to Ray Roberts has completely changed.
And they're also there in June too. I feel like June and March are two completely different times.
Oh yeah, March will be way better. You'll see some way bigger fish caught. And it'll be like March in Texas is just, that's when the freaking Giants wake up and they're ready to eat. But Lee will be definitely one to watch, I feel like, in that. And Pat, I know before we went to our MPFL event, we had our championship this year at Lake Amistad.
Pat went to Ray Robertson pre-fish and stuff, and he said he caught some fish. But obviously, it was a kind of similar time of year, but it wasn't the exact same. So depending on the weather, Texas is super volatile with the weather. Depending on the weather, it could be great, could be pretty slow, pretty tough. But I hope Pat wins because I get to film it. It'd be sweet to film. I've never filmed. Like, I give Austin, who was just on the show last, I give him a lot of crap because I was like, dude, it's your first season shooting for somebody full time and they won a classic.
Yeah, you're already at the top.
That's what I told Austin. I was like, dude, I've been doing this for like 7 years and never, like, maybe a couple tournament wins with Pat. Like, but dang, dude, filming someone win the classic, that's nuts. So
That's wild.
I hope Pat pulls it out, but there's gonna be a couple of guys to keep your eyes on for sure.
Heck yeah. Love it. Well, dudes, seriously appreciate you guys taking time out. I mean, we talked about it a few times in this dang show. Like, it's hard for you guys to even get an afternoon off with your guys' schedule. So it's appreciate getting you guys on this show and dropping some knowledge, some stories on the folks. But we'll be sure to drop all your guys' socials and stuff where people can follow along with you guys and get in touch if they can take up some of the 2 free weeks that you guys have free of your whole 365-day calendar. But for real, boys, appreciate you guys taking time out and looking forward to seeing you guys at the Classic.
Thanks for having us, Bailey. I think I'm going to be having a baby during the Classic, dude. I may not show up.
Well, if that's the case,
baby, so I'll be there.
Well, Travis, good luck, buddy. We'll be thinking of you regardless. And yeah, best of luck with that, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, good luck and congratulations on everything. You guys are doing awesome stuff. And
thank you guys.
Just keep rocking and rolling. Let us know if you need anything, man.
Appreciate it. Yeah, we'll see you guys. Thank you for having us, and I'm sure Clint will see you down the road. I'll see you
at the first event.
Classic, but
Yes,
I'll see you at the first event, Clint.
Sounds like a plan. Come catch some spotted bass sometime.
Let's freaking do it. Come to Conroe before the fork event.
Might slide down there. We'll be in touch.
They'll be biting the chatterbait.
I like it.
Ooh.
Come on.
I like it.
All right, boys. We'll be talking to you soon.
See you guys.
Right,
See you
guys. And there we have it, Clint. We made it through the mega show.
The Camera Guy Mega Show.
Dude, I think this is probably twice as long as we anticipated it being.
If I could have harnessed this show 6 years ago, the heartbreak, the agony, the motivation,
yeah,
I wouldn't have got where I am today. But no, I think it was awesome value for anyone that's starting out, that has been doing it for 3 years, that has been doing it for 10 years, that has been doing it for 50 years. Like, it's so much value in these stories that come from these guys. We all come from different walks of life. And I think being able to hear the stories that these guys tell about themselves and these stories that these guys tell about other people, other businesses, other brands, products, all of the above, it's pretty awesome.
And you're getting a different perspective. And what's cool with it is, so you have the Lyons brothers who built a business individually, but also collectively. And, they have multiple brands they shoot for. You have Jake Latondras, who's primarily, shooting for Bassmaster. And then you have,
he does Sherwood, it all. Yeah.
Right. And Sherwood, who's still working a full-time job, but also bringing on client work. And it's like, we have all these different facets and these different ways that you can make, being behind a camera and being creative in this space a living. There's so many different ways that you can make that a full-time gig, that it's cool to see that different perspectives come through. And obviously there's a lot of stories and fun that we had on this show, but hopefully people were able to take a lot of lessons away from it too. And so it's cool. I mean, this is only, 40-50% of what you can do in this industry. Like, we could, and especially the amount of people that we could have had on, like we just mentioned Sam Moore earlier. Like, there's so many great people that are behind the camera right now in the outdoor space, and so many different possibilities you can do from creating a career path, that if you got the imagination and the creative and the work ethic to go do it, you can make it happen. Like, especially in this space, it's just a unique industry. You can make it work.
And I feel like it's just a work ethic at the end of the day. If you want to do this, you have to love it. You have to breathe it. You have to live it. And you have to be willing to sacrifice the time to make it happen. If you're working a full-time job and you sacrifice that time that you could be hanging out with friends or chilling, go to the bar, watching football, whatever, and you take that sacrifice and put that 10 hours a week into learning how to film, learning how to tell the story, then you start to change your life into doing from something to make money to doing something to fulfill your life at the end of the day. Like if you're chasing the dream and you're doing something you love, you can have other jobs throw you a ton of money and all this stuff, but being like, hey, come work for me because of this. Like, here's all this money. It's like, no, I want to work for what I want to do to fulfill myself at the end of the day, make me happy, chase the dream. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about. If I die tomorrow, I know I'll die happy because I'm dying chasing the dream, you know?
Yeah. Amen, dude. Like tomorrow ain't guaranteed. That's the biggest thing. That is the damn biggest thing. So it's inspiring to talk to each of these guys. And if you guys appreciate the feedback, had comments on it, put them down below, especially if you're watching this thing on YouTube. But feel free to DM us, DM Clint, DM anybody that was on this show if you took any feedback away, or if you have continued questions. Maybe it was something that Clint mentioned or Austin mentioned or Kyle mentioned that you want a deeper dive on. Like Clint mentioned, just reach out. Most of these guys would be very happy to
shoot
take
a
time
DM because you never know like what question. You could have the easiest question in the world. It could be like, should I run a GoPro or a DJI, or what should I run for this? Like, if you don't ask, you won't learn, and you can never make enough connections in this industry. If I have somebody ask me a question about a GoPro or DJI, and then 2 years down the road, they start filming stuff and I recommend them for something because they reached out, you never know what things lead to in the future. So always keep that in mind.
Yeah. Even if that's hey dude, love your work. I want to do this someday. It goes as far as that. So exactly. Well, dude, this was freaking awesome.
No, this was great. Thanks for making this happen, man.
Well, this was your brainchild, is what I'll give it to. I give you all the credit. I was just the one that was clicked record and talked a lot of shit. That's about it. That's all podcast host does, dude. Just click record and talk shit.
King of facilitating. I like it.
pretty much. But we're gonna figure out how we're gonna puzzle this all together. Hopefully, people enjoyed it. I still to this point in recording don't know if we're gonna do this as 2 parts or just one gigantic part.
I think we should just throw it all into one at this point. I mean, that puts it at 4.5 hours, something like that.
Something like that, yeah. Because this was an hour 40 you were coming on. It was like 2.5 to start, and when Jake was like
for the
45,
and then whatever happened with Jake, that's
man,
yeah. I'm excited to hear Jake's part. I'm sad I missed that part.
Yeah, that was one. It would have been really good to get you at, but it's all good because we're gonna have a part 2 to this thing eventually. Maybe not 5 hours worth, but maybe
it's 10. Maybe it's 10. You never know.
Maybe it's 10. I don't know if I'm prepared for that one.
I don't know if I am either. There's a lot more pee breaks involved in that one.
Yeah, maybe we'll just get a round table at the Classic, get everybody some whiskey, and we'll just rock it all in person instead of.
I'd be down for a live camera guy round table. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
We'd all be back dumping footage from the Classic, so that's probably not the best time.
No, not at all. It's actually probably the worst time to do it, but hey, here we are. Well, dude, I appreciate you a ton for taking the time out to do this with me, help me guide this show, and hopefully people value that, and I'm sure they do. But huge shout out to you, brother. I appreciate it, and I appreciate our friendship, man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you, and I appreciate what you guys are building with Serious Angler. 2025's coming up. It's in the sights. Like, ton of cool stuff coming down the pipe. So I'm excited to see where it takes you guys. Like, you guys have been working so hard. You've earned it. Like, this is a platform to share knowledge, entertain, educate, all that fun stuff. I mean, it's pretty cool. So rock and roll, baby.
Hell yeah. We got a fun 25 ahead, buddy. I'm looking forward to seeing you for a good bulk of it. So, and folks, again, all Clint's socials and everything are down below. If you watch any live streams, chances are you'll see him in the live stream. So chat with him there. Yeah, make sure you guys follow him on social. Buddy, it's been a pleasure. And folks, appreciate y'all. We'll see you on the next one. So I hope you guys enjoyed that show there. It was a lot to put together for Clint and I to be able to to get these guys all locked down with their crazy schedules. And I really appreciate them for taking their time out to come on here, talk about fishing, talk about especially their line of work and their niche in the fishing and hunting industry, their creative space, the lessons they've learned, the stories that they've had from the road. And hopefully you guys took that away as well. Again, I'll remind people, if you're listening or tuning into this and you're looking to either you're already in the space and you're looking to improve your skills, or you're not yet, but you're aspiring to be in this line of work, reach out to these guys. I'll link all their socials and everything down below where you guys can reach out to them, ask some questions, and they're all going to be happy to take the time out and speak with you guys. They're all very knowledgeable, hardworking dudes, but all have great hearts as well, and they'll be willing to help you guys along in your journey. And so hopefully you guys enjoyed this one, which is part 2 of the Cameraman Mega Show. With that said, we do have a couple more items coming out for the rest of 2024. And the big one is going to be that we have the end of 2024 show coming to you guys. And it's actually one that we did in person. It was Andy, Deacon, and I. We flew Deacon to New York to do our planning meeting for 2025, which has some pretty big changes. And you can find that in that episode that is going to be coming out next week. So look out for that. It's very detailed on what you can expect from Serious Angler for next year. It's really freaking exciting. There's a lot of big stuff coming that you guys get to look forward to. So as always, appreciate y'all. Make sure you guys are following us on social media. Keep up with everything super up to date, real time. And if you're watching on YouTube, please like, subscribe, share this podcast with your friends, as well as if you're listening, share this with your friends, leave us a rating and review. We'll see y'all on the next one.